Bang! 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 Hold the line. Do not retreat. This damn monster. It's like he's immortal. He's slowing down. Wear him out. Gunfire roared continuously as a dark shadow weaved through the hail of bullets. Despite the evasion, several rounds found their mark on Harrison Chong, drawing blood. Faced with the interception by the new sentry, Harrison had chosen to reveal his full strength, hoping for a quick victory. However, the power of the new sentry had completely exceeded his expectations. What shocked him even more was that as his injuries mounted and his blood loss increased, he was becoming rapidly weaker. Damn it! How can I have such a fatal weakness? Harrison cursed inwardly, his dark eyes scanning the surroundings. He was already contemplating escape. Looking around at the few men left standing, a sense of sorrow welled up within him. He never imagined that this joint operation by the Four Pillars would result in their total annihilation. From this day forward, the Four Pillars of NYC would cease to exist. While Harrison was struggling to hold on, Otis Osborne wasn't faring any better. The Osborne forces had suffered heavy casualties, and Otis was currently hiding in a corner, gasping for breath. What the hell? Is this a nightmare? He looked at his right arm, where a deep gash gaped open, a gift from Ethan Siez's throwing knife. Originally, Otis hadn't cared about the wound, but after fighting for a while, he realized something was wrong. The blade was poisoned, and it wasn't just any ordinary poison. His physical constitution and self-healing abilities were far beyond that of a normal human. If even he could be affected, what kind of hellish substance had that sneaky bastard coated his blade with? And that sniper, the bullets were poisoned too. What kind of dishonorable trash are these people? Otis's mentality was on the verge of collapsing. They didn't play fair, using poison at every turn. Did they have no shame? Cough, cough. Otis coughed up a mouthful of black blood, feeling as if his internal organs were on fire. Otis, stop hiding. Come on out. Ethan Siez's voice rang out, laced with mockery. Surrender, and you lose half. We only want half your life. Hearing this, Otis nearly choked on his rage. He had already lost half his life. Damn it, what is this poison? Otis's face was grim. If this continued, he was truly finished. In the distance, Conrad Caldwell sneered privately. He knew exactly how terrifying this poison was because he had once been afflicted by it. If Sterling hadn't saved him back then, he would have met the king of hell long ago. That was why he owed Sterling a favor. Eventually, he had brought this poison out from North Point to use as a trump card. Footsteps approached. Otis Osborne slowly walked out from the corner, glaring gloomily at Conrad. Seeing his state, Conrad laughed. Otis, the poison doesn't feel good, does it? What is this poison? Otis gritted his teeth. This is definitely not something your Caldwell family could research. Conrad smiled meaningfully. Of course, the Caldwells didn't make this. I brought this all the way from North Point. It's Dr. Horace Kane's dead man walking toxin. Anyone hit by this will die within 3 steps. The fact that you've lasted this long. TSK, TSK, TSK. Truly terrifying. Otis frowned. Horace Kane? Why did that name sound familiar? North Point's Horace Kane. The poison doctor, Horace Kane. Otis had a look of realization, his voice hoarse. No wonder. So, it's his poison. But didn't Horace Kane vanish ages ago? Is that any of your business? Conrad said smugly. The point is, I have his poison, and I used it on you. How's that for a kick in the teeth? Otis fell silent. After a long moment, he spoke. Let's make a deal. Let me live. I'll leave NYC and never return. How about it? Otis knew that if this dragged on, he was dead. He had walked out, hoping to negotiate. Let you live. Conrad sneered. What do you think? Seeing this, Otis knew there was no deal to be made. His eyes filled with unwillingness. Bang! In the distance, Kane pulled the trigger, a bullet piercing Otis Osborne's heart. Simultaneously, a blade flashed, and a black throwing knife embedded itself in Otis's chest. Otis sprayed a mouthful of blood and fell straight back, his eyes staring blankly at the sky. I am Otis Osborne, the patriarch of the Osborne Trust. I can't die. I shouldn't TD. Otis's vision blurred, but he kept his eyes open, trying desperately to see the world one last time. Conrad walked up, raised his gun, and aimed at the center of Otis's forehead. Patriarch Osborne, have a safe trip. Conrad spoke coldly, then pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots fired in succession, completely ending Otis Osborne's life. Conrad let out a long sigh of relief. Looking back, his side had also suffered heavy losses. Just one Otis Osborne had wiped out more than half of their combat power. Having witnessed such terrifying strength firsthand, Conrad realized how wise it had been to bring the poison. Otherwise, the outcome would have been uncertain. With this, the Osborne Trust was also destroyed. At the Granger estate, Leo Evans received a call from Adrian, learning about the events at the university. Gareth Granger took Sterling and Mom to North Point. His target is the North Point Horde. After relaying this to David Evans and Director Jensen, Leo asked in confusion, "What exactly is the North Point Horde? Why does Gareth want it?" "It's a fortune, a massive amount of resources," David explained. "Resources capable of grooming the next sovereign syndicate." Leo nodded. It sounded like the One Piece treasure, but what did Gareth want with that stuff? Logically speaking, now that he's successfully evolved, no one is his match. Unless it's a nuke, nothing should threaten him, Leo puzzled. In that case, why does he need that wealth and resources? He didn't even care about the destruction of the Granger Foundation. Would he really care about establishing a sovereign syndicate? David frowned, falling into thought. A moment later, as if recalling something, he blurted out, "I know. He's after the lunar amber." The lunar what? Jensen hadn't heard clearly. The lunar amber, a treasure the Qin Directorate placed in the North Point Horde years ago. "It's rich in life essence," David explained gravely. There were rumors that eating the lunar amber could extend one's life by at least several decades. I don't know if it's true, but I suspect Gareth's evolution might not be complete, or something went wrong, and he needs the massive life essence within the lunar amber to compensate. Leo and Jensen widened their eyes, finding it incredible. Eating it extends life by decades? For real? Wait, put the lunar amber aside for a second. Mom is with Gareth right now. That's dangerous. Leo couldn't help but say. Shouldn't we go after them immediately? David spoke softly. I know you're anxious. I'm more anxious than you. That's my wife. But don't worry for now. Gareth won't hurt her in the short term. With Sterling there, Carol will be fine. Besides, North Point isn't like NYC. There are many strange and capable people there. And your grandfather is there too. No, hold on. Leo interrupted, looking shocked as if he'd misheard. My grandpa is in North Point? I remember you telling me he passed away when I was a kid. Huh? Did I say that? David froze, scratching his head. Maybe you were too young and took my cursing of the old man literally, thinking he was dead? Leo stood frozen, completely dumbfounded. Then my grandma. Oh, she's actually dead. All right then. Leo couldn't find words to describe his current mood. It was just ridiculous. They walked out of the Granger estate. Leo needed to wait for Adrian to pick him up. David looked at Leo and decided to explain. The reason your mom and I came to NYC back then was actually to complete a mission your grandfather gave us. Although he's your grandpa and my dad, more often than not, he's the commanding officer for both me and your mom. All these years, he's been leading the army to guard the North Point border. He couldn't get away, so he never had time to come back and see you. The only time you met was probably the day you were born. I still remember he called in a lot of favors just to sneak out of North Point for a glance at you before rushing back. David looked at Leo and said slowly, although you two don't have an emotional foundation, you carry a lot of weight in the old man's heart. At least a lot more than I do as his son. There was a hint of helplessness in David's tone. Since the topic was open, he decided to spill everything, regardless of Jensen's presence. When the Manhattan incident broke out, the old man sent us to NYC with 3 missions. The first was to maintain stability in NYC and prevent another incident like Manhattan. At this, Jensen's mouth twitched. He turned to look at the distance, where black smoke from Caldwell's Crossing still hadn't dissipated. Then he looked back at the battlefield of the Granger estate and couldn't help but roll his eyes. He felt that Leo's grandpa sending David to NYC was a massive mistake. This was worse than the Manhattan incident. Maintain stability? Is this how you maintain it? However, David ignored Jensen's eye roll and continued. The second mission was to try our best to overthrow the rule of the 4 pillars. This one, looking at it now, has been overfulfilled. After all, it wasn't just overthrowing their rule. The 4 pillars were practically extinct now. The third mission was for us to find something. Find what? Leo asked. I don't know either. The old man said it was a family heirloom of the Qin Directorate, the key to opening the North Point Horde. Sterling knows something about it, but he wouldn't tell me. The old man just said to keep an eye out for it. Not that we absolutely had to get it, so I put it aside. Just then, David's phone rang. He frowned after answering it. What's wrong? Jensen asked. David put down the phone and said slowly, Otis Osborne is dead, but Harrison Shang escaped. I'll take people to chase him, Jensen said without hesitation. If Harrison escaped today, killing him later would be difficult. David nodded. Sorry for the trouble. Blackface. Jensen's face darkened. He glared at David, then led his people away quickly. After Jensen left, David looked at Leo. I can't go to North Point with you. With the 4 pillars gone, many factions will try to seize power. I have to watch over NYC. I've arranged a helicopter for you. It'll be here soon. Leo nodded gently. I know. I'll save Mom. Good. You're reliable, David laughed. Wait, let me call the old man and have him send someone to meet you in North Point, so you aren't lost in a strange place. With that, David pulled out a black phone from another pocket. It had only one contact. He dialed the number in front of Leo. After a busy tone, the call connected. Hello, old man, it's me. David briefly explained the situation in NYC, then said, Leo is going to North Point. You handle it from there. As soon as his voice fell, a roar exploded from the other end of the phone. David Evans, did you get your head caught in a door? I only have one grandson, and you let him go to a dangerous place like NYC to operate with you. And now you're letting him come to North Point alone? What if something happens on the way? He's barely college age. Instead of letting him enjoy life, you drag him into this bloodbath? Is this how you take care of my cute little grandson? I swear to God, if you come to North Point right now, I will kill you. David held the phone far away, listening to the roaring curses with a helpless expression. He glanced at the innocent-looking Leo, standing aside, and felt even more speechless. Old man, you really don't know what your cute, obedient grandson has done in NYC. We dragged him into a bloodbath. The things your grandson did himself were thrilling enough to scare us, let alone do them. Unable to get a word in edgewise, David had no choice but to hand the phone to Leo. Leo took the phone, blinked, and put it to his ear. David, you son of... Grandpa, Leo called out softly, causing the cursing on the other end to stop abruptly. After a long silence, a slightly aged, trembling voice sounded in Leo's ear. Is that... Thou... It's me, Grandpa. Oh, my dear grandson. I'm your grandpa. The old man on the phone seemed a bit flustered, completely different from the image of the person cursing just now. Have you been well these years? Have you been eating properly? Has anyone bullied you at school? The old man spoke gently, asking a string of questions, eager to know about Leo's life over the years. There was also a hint of guilt for not being able to accompany Leo as he grew up. Leo, have your parents been taking good care of you? If they haven't treated you well, just tell Grandpa, and I'll beat them up for you. Hearing this, Leo glanced at David beside him and drawled, well, as for taking care of me. David quickly waved his hands at him, signaling Leo to put in a good word. It seemed David was quite afraid of the old man's violent temper. Seeing this, the corners of Leo's mouth curled up slightly. He slowly held up 5 fingers toward David. Then his lips moved, silently mouthing 2 words to his father. 5 million. David's face instantly turned black. This little brat was actually extorting him, and the demand was calculated perfectly, just at the limit of what David could accept. A look of pain appeared on David's face. The 500 million Leo had used to fake his death had long been handed over to Carol. David had swiped the bank card from Leo back then, totaling only a few tens of millions. Now, this kid wanted to fleece him for 5 million in one go. David was 1,000 times unwilling. Just as he was about to haggle, Leo suddenly retracted his hand and flashed 6 fingers instead. In the moment David hesitated, Leo had raised the price to 6 million. This little bastard. David's eyes widened. Just as he was about to curse, he saw Leo preparing to raise the price again, so he quickly waved to stop him. With a heart full of grievance, he nodded. He accepted 6 million. Seeing this, Leo smiled with satisfaction and spoke into the phone. Don't worry, Grandpa. Dad and Mom take excellent care of me. I'm as healthy as a horse. Just wait, I'll come to North Point to see you soon, and we can have a good chat. With just a few words, Leo coaxed George Evans into hearty laughter. David's eyes twitched with anger. He wished he could rush over, grab the phone, and expose Leo's hypocritical mask to George. Your grandson's true face isn't like this. However, he knew if he did that, his 6 million would definitely be spent in vain. George had beaten him plenty in the past. Sometimes even Carol got scolded along with him. The couple was a bit afraid of the old man. Moreover, strictly speaking, George was their superior officer. Leo, are you really coming to North Point? Should Grandpa send a helicopter to pick you up? No need, Grandpa. Dad arranged everything for me. Is his arrangement reliable? What if something happens on the way? Don't worry, Grandpa. The person who can make something happen to me hasn't been born yet. Ha ha. Leo, you're so funny. George laughed heartily, taking Leo's words as mere boasting. But David rolled his eyes, thinking to himself, old man, wait until you meet your precious grandson. Only then will you know what a true chaos magnet looks like. Sending this troublemaker to North Point is perfect. Let him be your headache. I can't stand it anymore. Leo had only been in NYC for a few days, and the 4 pillars were gone. And that was with David telling him not to cause trouble. What would happen in North Point? With George's personality, if he indulged Leo, North Point would become very lively indeed. Thinking of this, David decided absolutely not to go to North Point for the fun, unless Leo left. All right, Grandpa, it's settled. I'll come see you. Okay. Grandpa will be waiting for you. By the way, do you have anything to say to Dad? What is there to say to him? Hearing his voice annoys me. Then I'm hanging up. Grandpa, wait for me. Okay, good. Leo hung up the phone with a well-behaved expression and handed it back to David. At the same time, he asked a question that nearly made David drop the phone. What's the old man's name again? David was dumbfounded by the question. So you were chatting so intimately just now, calling him Grandpa left and right, and you didn't even know his name? Leo looked innocent. It's been so many years, how would I know what the old man's name is? George Evans, David said word by word. George as in general, Evans as in Evans. TSK, the old man must be cultured. Leo nodded, then couldn't help asking. Then if you and the old man have such normal names, why did I end up with just Leo? Hearing this, David scratched his head. Originally, your grandfather wanted to name you Bo Evans. Later, your mom thought it sounded tacky, so she privately changed it to your current name. Bo Evans. Hearing that name, Leo felt his vision go dark. He could only say his mother was wise. Just then, a car drove up in the distance. Leo immediately saw Adrian sitting in the passenger seat. At the same time, the helicopter David arranged arrived. Click. After getting out of the car, Adrian ran to Leo immediately. Time is tight. We have to leave now. Sterling told us to take you to North Point to find Julian. Although I don't know why. I think those two must have a plan. Leo nodded, then looked at Henry Yin behind Adrian. Henry, do me a favor. Henry paused, then said, name it. If I can help, I will. It's like this. Professor Miller. Leo told Henry about Professor Miller, then said, I'm going to North Point now, so I'm entrusting Professor Miller's funeral arrangements to you. You're Dr. Marx's student. With your relationship to Miller, it's appropriate for you to handle this. Henry took a deep breath and looked at Leo with utter seriousness. Don't worry, I'll handle it well. He hadn't met Professor Miller, but he had learned from Sterling that Miller had secretly helped him a lot, including pleading with President Joyce to get Henry hired at AU. Henry kept all this in his heart, hoping to thank Miller in person one day, but unexpectedly, they were separated by death before they could meet. Then, Leo turned to David. I'm going then. David nodded. Don't worry, I've got NYC covered. And don't forget to tell Ava. I know. I'll tell her after I get on the helicopter. Leo looked helpless. He was afraid he couldn't avoid being scolded by Ava again. Forget it. He just dumped the blame on Julian and let Ava vent on him. That was what brothers-in-law were for. Leo exchanged a glance with Adrian, quickly climbed into the helicopter and closed the cabin door. As the helicopter took off, Leo took in the situation in NYC. Fires burned everywhere. Smoke filled the air, especially the black smoke from Caldwell's Crossing, rising higher than their helicopter. TSK. Such a big mess, enough to give Dad a headache. Leo sighed, then suddenly remembered Sebastian Westcott was still in the hospital. He wondered if he could be saved. Forget it. It depends on his luck. Leo's gaze sharpened, thinking to himself, Gareth Granger. Just you wait. North Point. Here I come. Ugh. Adrian was startled. Leo, what's wrong? Herc. I get motion sickness. Blarg. Leo covered his mouth, fists clenched tight. Damn it, I forgot about this. North Point, East Side Ridge. Oh man, I'm exhausted. Finally made it. A heavily armed man, covered from head to toe, stealthily approached the gate of a courtyard house. He clutched a black box to his chest, looking left and right as if afraid someone would snatch it. Seeing no one around, he pulled down his thick mask, revealing his face. Phew, almost suffocated. Shane Quill gasped for air. After arriving in North Point, fearing his enemies would recognize him, he had covered his face completely, all to safely deliver the box containing the mithril pistol to Master Silas. This way, the mission Sterling gave him would be successfully completed. He had cast a divination for himself on the way, predicting a calamity on this trip, but nothing had happened. Looks like my fortune-telling skills aren't up to par yet. Shane shook his head with a laugh, reaching out a knock on the big red iron door. Bang, bang, bang. The knocking sound interrupted the few people playing cards inside the courtyard. Master Silas looked up, staring suspiciously at the door, and shouted, Who is it? It's me, open up. The old prophet. Silas recognized Shane's voice and looked puzzled. What was that con man doing here looking for him? And Silas looked at the other 3 card players, raising an eyebrow. These 3 seem to have some beef with the old prophet. Sure enough, hearing Shane's voice, the 3 immediately made a shushing gesture at Silas, signaling him not to let Shane know they were there. Seeing this, Silas felt a bit conflicted. If he let the old prophet in, the guy was in for a beating. With the intention of doing a good deed, Silas shouted, "I'm busy today, come back another day." Hearing this, the 3 men panicked. It was rare to catch this con man. How could they let him get away? Just as they were about to get up and grab Shane, Shane's impatient voice rang out from outside. "Cut the crap and open the door. Do you know how much trouble I went through to get here? Open up. I have serious business with you." Hearing this, the 3 glared ferociously at Silas, as if they would strike if he dared to say another word. Silas shook his head helplessly. You can't stop a ghost looking for death. He tried his best. So he stood up slowly to open the door. The 3 men also stood up, following Silas to the door, hiding quietly behind it, then signaled Silas to open it. Silas looked at them resignedly, then opened the door. "Creak, what took you so long?" Shane rushed in frantically, glanced at Silas, and said, "I'm telling you, if you delay the big matter, you have to." Clang! As the gate slammed shut, Shane's voice cut off abruptly, because the 3 men had already surrounded him with fierce expressions. "Shane Quill, we finally caught you. Heaven has eyes, letting me meet you again in this lifetime." "Enough talk, get him!" Shane turned pale with fright. Holy crap, not the face. Before he could finish, a fist the size of a sandbag smashed into his face. "Ugh, I was wrong. Stop hitting. You need to accumulate good karma. I'll pay you back, okay?" Hearing the words "pay back," the 3 men stopped. Shane had been beaten to the ground, his face bruised and swollen. He hadn't expected that after hiding the whole way, he would meet his doom here. "You blind bat, you just said you'd pay us back. You owe us a total of 300 grand. We won't even ask for interest. That's right, fork over 300,000 right now, and our grudge is wiped clean." Silas stood not far away, shaking his head at the scene. What a sin, he sighed. Shane clutched his face. Hearing the 3 men, he gulped hard. 300,000? Are you kidding? Where would he find 300,000 right now? Shane blinked and suddenly turned his attention to Silas. Silas saw Shane's look and immediately understood his plan, quickly waving his hand. "Don't you look at me. I have no money to lend you." Hearing this, Shane looked pleading. "Brother Silas, calling me brother won't help. I really have no money." Silas didn't even look at him. At this moment, the 3 men looked fierce, rubbing their fists as they stepped forward. "What? Can't pay up. Wait. Shane waved his hands frantically, looking around until his gaze settled on Julian Reed, who was playing chess in the distance. Little brother," Shane shouted at Julian. "Saving a life brings more merit than building a 7-story pagoda." Hearing this, Julian paused his hand over the board and turned to look at Shane. "Are you calling me?" "Yes. Help me. I'll definitely pay you back the 300,000. "Sure." Julian smiled and agreed, stunning everyone. Even Shane was confused. He was grasping at straws. He didn't expect the guy to agree so easily. Julian grabbed a handful of chess pieces, held them his fist, and raised it in front of Shane. "I have a number of pieces in my hand. How many are white, and how many are black? If you can guess correctly, I'll pay this 300,000 for you." Hearing this, the 3 men laughed. If it was just guessing the total number, maybe Shane could get lucky, but to accurately say how many white and how many black, the probability was too low. "Old prophet, young mister. Reed gave you a chance. If you can't grasp it, don't blame us brothers for being impolite." Shane's mouth twitched, not because of Julian's words, but because of Julian's smile. It was exactly like that bastard Sterling. "What? Can't guess." Seeing Shane remain silent, Julian said, "Last 3 seconds. 3, 2, 5 pieces. For black, 1 white." Before Julian could finish counting, Shane shouted, as if resigning to fate. Hearing his answer, Julian revealed an expression that said as expected, and slowly opened his palm. Everyone's gaze shifted. Lying quietly in that pale palm were 5 chess pieces. 4 black, 1 white. The chess pieces in Julian's hand were exactly as Shane had said. 4 black, 1 white. Shane breathed a sigh of relief. "Looks like I guessed right." Everyone's eyes widened. Was that really a guess? The probability was too low, wasn't it? Several people stared intently at Shane's sunglasses, suspecting the guy had seen Julian grabbing the pieces. Regarding the matter of Shane being blind, no one knew if it was true. They only knew he wore sunglasses all year round, and people often called him the old blind prophet. Over time, people really treated him as blind. But this situation forced them to doubt. Was he really blind? But when Julian grabbed the pieces just now, even they hadn't seen clearly. Could this blind man see it? Little brother, according to what you said, I guessed right. Look. Julian slowly placed the pieces back into the bowl and stood up. Of course my word counts. I'll pay this 300,000 for you. Hearing this, the three men immediately tried to dissuade him. Young mister, Reed, you don't need to do this. You don't know, this guy's a famous con man far and wide. It's hard to get money back from him. Yeah, mister. Reed, don't worry about this guy. Seeing this, Shane panicked. He looked at Julian and said, You promised me just now? You can't renege. Don't worry, I won't renege. Julian smiled and shook his head, then looked at the three men. You three lost a total of 1 million to me playing cards and betting earlier. Deduct it from that debt. How about it? The three men's faces fell. They hadn't expected Julian to use that debt to offset this. Seeing the situation was about right, Silas spoke up. I think it works. Julian didn't even give you a deadline to pay back the money earlier. He clearly couldn't be bothered to collect. Now you dare to have an opinion. One of them hesitated. This isn't quite appropriate, is it? Oh, Julian smiled. So, you mean you want to pay back that 1 million right now? I have no objection to that either. The man quickly waved his hand, laughing awkwardly. I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? Julian asked casually. Just now, you three were saying paying debts is justified by heaven and earth. How come when it gets to me, it's no longer justified? Julian's voice was crisp, yet it carried immense pressure. Silas looked at the three men speechlessly. Why provoke him? Just do whatever he says. Didn't you see, even I don't dare mess with him? There was something the others didn't know. This large courtyard house, rather than belonging to Silas, practically belonged to Julian now. Long ago, Silas's entire fortune had been emptied out by Julian. It could be said that Silas had to watch Julian's mood to act now, or he could be kicked out at any time, with nowhere to sleep. Hearing Julian's words, the three men's faces changed, and they quickly said, We'll do as Mr. Reed says. How could we have an opinion? Immediately, they looked at Shane. From now on, our debt is wiped clean. Shane stared blankly at Julian, only one word in his mind. Similar. He was too similar to that bastard Sterling. He was simply Sterling too. 0. Shane immediately made up his mind that this young man, named Julian Reed, was absolutely not to be trifled with. He had to avoid him. All right, with all this noise, we can't play cards anymore. Let's reschedule. Silas waved his hand, issuing an eviction order. The three men were sensible. They glanced at Shane and then took their leave. For a moment, only Shane, Silas, and Julian were left in the large courtyard. Old prophet, you said you had serious business with me. What is it? At Silas's question, Shane reacted, grumpily pulling the box from his chest and handing it to Silas. Sterling asked me to bring this to you, saying only you can open the box and get the thing inside. This box. Silas saw the black box, froze for a few seconds, then recognized it. This was precisely the box he had crafted for the Cheen family back then. He took the box, examined it carefully, and said, It is indeed the box for the mithril pistol. It has my unique mark, and there are no signs of it being opened. Julian walked over slowly, glanced at the box, and asked, Can you open it now? No problem, give me a moment. Silas finished speaking and trotted into the room. Soon, sounds of rummaging came out. Found it. Silas walked out holding a key. Luckily, I didn't throw this thing away. Otherwise, making another one would take a lot of effort. Saying that, he took the box, aligned the key with the hole, and inserted it. TSK. The mithril pistol was my masterpiece. It's been so long since I've seen it. Huh. As the box opened, the three looked inside and fell instantly silent. The box was empty. There was nothing inside. Julian and Silas slowly turned their heads to look at Shane. Shane shivered under their gaze, reading the meaning in their eyes, and immediately shouted, This has nothing to do with me. I didn't take the mithril pistol. I risked my life to escort it all the way here. If I really wanted to embezzle the treasure, why would I come to find you and walk into a trap? And only Silas can open this box. How could I take the mithril pistol without opening the box? I am innocent. I am clean. I can swear to heaven. Shane raised his hands solemnly, eager to distance himself completely. He couldn't carry the blame for the mithril pistol involving the North Point horde. Silas frowned. Indeed, in this world, only I can open this box. But I just checked. There are no signs of forced entry. A ghost, then? Can the mithril pistol vanish into thin air? Julian pondered for a moment, then looked at Shane and whispered, Tell me clearly about everyone you met and everything that happened from the moment you touched the box until you reached North Point. Shane immediately started from the beginning without hesitation. When he mentioned meeting Leo, Julian couldn't help interrupting. Wait, you mean you met Leo Evans before leaving NYC? Shane nodded. Yeah, that kid was incredibly. Julian didn't bother listening to his nonsense. He took out his phone and called Leo directly. Intuition told him the mithril pistol was mostly likely in Leo's hands. No evidence or reason required. Leo Evans, did you run off to North Point without saying a word again? I'm telling you, if you do this again, don't even think about coming home in this lifetime. Just go wander the streets with Reggie. On the helicopter, Leo listened to Ava Reed's angry shouting on the phone, feeling helpless. It just so happened he was airsick and didn't have his stick. Ava, listen to me explain. Herc. Oh great, Leo. Now you find me disgusting? You want to vomit as soon as you hear my voice? Is that it? No, I just blarg. Oomph. Just you wait. See how I deal with you later. Beep, beep, beep. Ava hung up. Leo covered his mouth, looking innocently at his phone, suffering in silence. Adrian was making tisk-tisk-k sound beside him, shaking his head and clearly gloating. Leo glared at him. Just as he planned to call Ava back to explain, another call came in. It was Julian. Why is he calling me? Leo muttered, then suppressed the urge to vomit and answered the phone. Hello. Leo, is the mithril pistol on you? Julian asked straight to the point. What thing? Say that again. The mithril pistol. A silver handgun. You swiped it from Shane Quill. Julian didn't even think about it. He directly concluded Leo stole it. This statement stunned both Shane and Silas nearby. Shane thought, that kid is that skilled? He could swipe it just like that. Silas thought, that kid is that skilled? How do you open my box? Silver handgun? Hearing Julian's words, Leo immediately thought of the silver gun he had swiped from Shane's box back at the tavern. Although he didn't know what it was for, seeing Shane's reaction, it seemed valuable, so he had kept it on him. Yeah, that thing is on me. Why? Leo admitted it generously. Julian breathed a slight sigh of relief. As long as it's with you, it's fine. With that, Julian hung up the phone, then looked at Shane and Silas. It's fine. The gun is with Leo. Silas. Shane. The gun is with Leo. How did he manage to say that so calmly? Shane didn't understand. He really didn't understand. He turned to look at Silas. Silas spread his hands. Not his business. He was just the unboxer. You better think about how to explain this to Sterling, Silas said to Shane, gloating. He asked you to bring the gun to me, and it got swiped halfway. If I were Sterling, I'd kill you. Silas's words made Shane shiver. He said weakly, this counts as force majeure, right? Julian sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. He knew Leo was a variable, but he didn't expect the impact to be this big. Things having come to this, they could only take it one step at a time. I'm going out for a bit. Julian walked a few steps, then suddenly turned back to look at the two, instructing, from now on, no matter who asks, don't let anyone know the mithril pistol is with Leo, understand? If necessary, take out the box and pretend the mithril pistol is in our hands. This. Silas looked hesitant. This was taking the blame. He was worried he couldn't carry it. Seeing this, Julian said directly, do as I say, and your debt to me is halved. Deal. No problem. Silas's expression changed instantly, patting his chest. Leave this to me. I've been good at taking the fall since I was a kid. The pots I carry are the blackest. Shane looked at Silas in shock. Was this the Silas he remembered, who thought he was second only to God? How did he end up like this after not seeing him for a few years? If Silas knew Shane's inner thoughts, he would definitely grab Shane's hand and complain for 3 days and 3 nights. Brother, you don't know. Ever since that guy came in North Point, after arranging everything, Julian went straight out, destination unknown. On the other side, inside the helicopter carrying Carol Evans and the others. Carol looked ahead and suddenly asked, where are we landing? Gareth Granger turned to Sterling. Where's the North Point horde located? Sterling blinked. I don't know. What did you say? Gareth's face instantly darkened. You don't know the location of the North Point horde? Only Silas and the patriarch of the Cheen family back then knew the location. Meaning only Silas knows. Theoretically, yes. Where is Silas? Don't know. Sterling. Gareth couldn't help but roar. Are you refusing to cooperate? I really don't know, Sterling said innocently. It's been so long since I returned to North Point. Silas moves every other day. How would I know where he moved to? Gareth clenched his fist. If Sterling wasn't still useful, he would have acted right then. Almost at North Point. We have to land. Carol suddenly spoke up. The airspace over North Point is a no-fly zone. We can't fly directly in. No-fly zone. Gareth frowned. What happens if we fly in? Military missiles will shoot us down immediately. Sterling looked at Gareth. Can your current body withstand a missile? Gareth's mouth twitched. Wasn't that nonsense? He had evolved, not ascended to godhood. He was still flesh and blood. Hit by a missile, who wouldn't die? He wasn't that invincible. Find a safe place to land, then we enter the city. Gareth stared intently at Sterling. You better not play any tricks, or I'll start a massacre in North Point at any moment. Do you think the military guarding the West are useless? Sterling laughed. I advise you to keep a low profile, or those people will kill you regardless of the cost. Those guys in the West all have explosive tempers and never accept threats. If they get angry and drag you down to hell with them, you won't even have a place to cry. Sterling's words made Gareth frown. This was his biggest worry. The tough are afraid of the unreasonable, and the unreasonable are afraid of those who don't care about their lives. Moreover, his current physical condition was extremely unstable, fluctuating between good and bad. I must get the lunar amber quickly to stabilize my condition. Gareth thought. At the gates of North Point, Gareth, Sterling, and Carol were preparing to undergo entry inspection. North Point is different from other cities. It's under military jurisdiction and is also a border close to neighboring countries. Many foreign spies infiltrate from here, so the inspections are rigorous, Sterling explained to Gareth, giving him a meaningful look. Our identities are fine. We just need to simply cooperate with the inspection to enter the city smoothly. Gareth glanced at Sterling and whispered, You better not try anything. Even if the military comes, I can escape unscathed right now and seek revenge later. Why would I? My life is in your hands, and Carol's too. We're both your hostages, aren't we? Sterling smiled, showing no fear on his face. Carol's face was grim. She didn't know what Sterling was planning, but things being what they were, she could only improvise. Just then, the person in charge of inspection saw their IDs and looked up, checking their faces one by one. You three, from NYC. Then, without waiting for an answer, he looked at Sterling. Sterling, you have North Point residency. Yes, bringing 2 friends from NYC back to visit, Sterling smiled. Thank you for your hard work. The inspector then rested his gaze on Gareth's face, examining him carefully. At the same time, he swept a glance at Carol without changing his expression. Gareth frowned, his hand behind his back tensing, ready to strike if the other party made any sudden moves. But soon, the man nodded gently, returned the IDs to the 3, and waved his hand. Go in. Remember to obey the law. All right, thanks. Sterling thanked him with a smile and led the 2 into North Point. Gareth also breathed a sigh of relief secretly. If possible, he didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble. However, Sterling's words had given him ideas. Foreign spies. Was it possible to cooperate with these people? Once he sees a North Point horde, he would inevitably be targeted by the entire country. Even if his condition stabilized, he might not be able to withstand it. But what if he traded with foreign spies, used them to help find the horde, and then leveraged the nations behind them? Gareth felt this plan was increasingly feasible. The only problem was where to find these spies. The urgent task was still to find the North Point horde first. This matter still relied on Sterling. Where are we going now? Gareth asked Sterling. East Side Ridge, Sterling said. Only Silas knows the location of the North Point horde, and the key to opening it is also in Silas's hands. Gareth gave him a deep look, then said in a low voice, Lead the way. The 3 headed toward East Side Ridge. After they left, the person who checked their IDs suddenly took out a phone and dialed. General Evans, I have something to report. Yes, during inspection, I saw Captain Carol Evans's ID. Meanwhile, inside the courtyard house at East Side Ridge, Julian received a phone call at almost the same time. Hello, they've arrived. Good. Notify the others to take their positions. No need to notify the military side. They have people watching. All right, that's it. Thanks. After a few words, Julian hung up and stood, looking at Silas. Time to work. Silas nodded with a bitter face. Shane stood aside, confused. Work on what? What are you guys doing? Shane vaguely felt like he had entered a setup. If he didn't pull out now, he might get deeper into trouble. Thinking of this, before they could answer, he immediately said, Whatever you're doing, my mission is complete. I'm leaving. I advise you not to run out right now, Julian said indifferently. The entire East Side Ridge should be under military control by now. If I guess correctly, you dodged the inspection to get in, right? If you get treated as a suspicious character and shot dead, who am I going to ask for the $300,000 you owe me? Julian's words made Shane pause, turning back in disbelief. What did you say? Wait, what exactly are you guys doing? I'm really panicking. Just then, Silas walked out of the room fully armed, carrying a sniper rifle on his back. Haven't been active in a long time. Wonder if my marksmanship has gotten rusty. Silas wiped the sniper rifle repeatedly, grinning with eagerness. Everyone knew Silas was a legendary gunsmith, but few knew Silas was also a legendary sniper. To build guns, one must understand them. Only one who uses guns well can build good guns. Julian sat on a stone stool, a look of anticipation in his eyes. This was a good chance to make Sterling owe him a big favor. Moreover, today's battle was crucial. It concerned the trap he and Sterling had set together, the North Point kill zone. So, Julian would allow absolutely no accidents. He had to spring this trap before Leo arrived in North Point. Old Prophet, just listen to Julian and stay here. Don't run anywhere. Silas looked at Shane. If you run around and ruin his plan, believe me, you'll die a miserable death. He was right. If the plan really got ruined because of Shane, the wrath of Julian and Sterling combined was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Shane gulped hard. Now he vaguely realized why Sterling had asked him to bring the box. Because he was also a variable that needed to be controlled. Then, good luck to you, Shane said weakly. Need me to read your fortune or something? No need. Julian put on his coat, speaking calmly. I know your fortune-telling has merit, but it will affect my judgment. So, what you need to do is stay here and don't move. Silas looked at Julian puzzled. Let's go. What are we waiting for? What's the rush? Julian glanced at him. You think Gareth is easy to deal with? We have another helper on the way. Helper? Silas blinked. A helper I don't know about? Yeah, sent by Sterling. As Julian's voice fell, the gate of the courtyard slowly pushed open, and a figure walked in slowly. His sharp eyes scanned the three people in the courtyard, and he asked in a low, deep voice, Excuse me, which one of you is Julian Reed? North Point, every corner of East Side Ridge. As Julian had predicted, the military had already tightly controlled the area. At this moment, a rough voice rang out from everyone's walkie-talkies. Everyone perk up for me. After finishing this job, I still have to go pick up my grandson. Wait for my command when the target enters the line of sight. Hold your positions. Remember, the primary objective of this operation is to rescue your Captain Carol Evans. As for that bastard Sterling, someone else will save him. We don't need to care. Later, no matter what monsters or demons appear, pretend you didn't see anything. Just focus on hitting the target. George Evans chattered on giving orders, leaving one last sentence. Whoever drags my feet and delays me picking up my grandson, just wait to be shot later. Not for ruining the operation, but for delaying him picking up his grandson. This remark left everyone instantly speechless. Why was the violent-tempered General Evans so amiable towards his grandson? Gossip about this had circulated before. Have you heard about General Evans's grandson? I heard Captain David mention him before. Seems his grades are good. Probably in college now. Still in college? Then what's he doing in North Point? This isn't a stable place like Ethelbert. Who knows? Maybe he hasn't seen his grandpa in too long and wanted to visit. Then will we have to protect that young master later? Definitely. Nowhere in North Point is safe. Could General Evans let anything happen to his grandson? Ugh, I'd rather go patrol the border than do bodyguard duty. Who wouldn't? We'll see. Let's see which unlucky guy gets the job. They dare to say these things only in private, never in front of George. Otherwise, it would be a matter of getting shot. Meanwhile, a taxi was slowly driving toward East Side Ridge. Sitting inside were Gareth and his two captives. Sterling sat in the passenger seat, glanced at the driver, and smiled. Driver, I'll pretend I didn't see you turn right just now. Don't take the long way anymore. The driver looked embarrassed. You're a local? You should have said so earlier. East Side Ridge, right? I'll charge you $20. How about that? Sterling silently took out a $20 bill from his pocket and handed it to the driver. The driver steered with one hand, taking the bill, somewhat surprised. Using cash wasn't common these days. Buddy, what business do you have at East Side Ridge? The driver asked kindly. Let me warn you, the people inside East Side Ridge are weirder than the next. Don't provoke them. Sterling smiled. I know. I live there. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing this, the driver's eyes changed instantly, looking a bit guilty. Buddy, you live at East Side Ridge. Yeah, lived there for years. Cough. Well, I think I remembered wrong just now. $10 is enough to get to East Side Ridge. The driver took out a $10 bill and returned it to Sterling with an awkward smile. Sterling didn't refuse. He took it and said meaningfully, making money. It's better to be honest. The driver nodded repeatedly. You're right, buddy. Where are you getting off? Wong Stew House. Haven't had his beef stew in a long time. After saying that, Sterling turned back to Gareth. I'm hungry. Grab a bite? Any objections? And Carol hadn't eaten for over 10 hours. Gareth wasn't hungry. His constitution was different now. Seeing Sterling act like this, Gareth nodded gently. He wanted to see what trick Sterling could play. The taxi stopped at Wong's stew house. The three got out. Naturally, this was spotted by those lying in ambush. Attention! Target has entered visual range. Monitor movement constantly. Receiving the news, George immediately spoke through the walkie-talkie. Everyone attention, the target's strength is extraordinary. Be careful. Copy. Meanwhile, Sterling and the others had walked into Wong's stew house. Boss, 3 bowls of beef stew, extra meat, extra tripe. All right, have a seat, coming right up. At this moment, they were the only 3 customers in the shop. After sitting down, Gareth looked up at Sterling. Sterling, what tricks are you trying to pull? Carol also turned to look at Sterling. Sterling pretended nothing was happening, serving himself some pickles with a small saucer, answering, "What, you scared?" "Joe," Gareth sneered. "I'm just advising you not to waste your effort. You don't know how strong I am now. Even if you have endless schemes, they are useless in the face of absolute power." "Is that so?" Sterling sat back down with the pickles, looking Gareth in the eye. "Since you're so invincible, why do you still need to find that horde?" Gareth said nothing, looking at Sterling silently. The two stared at each other quietly. Time passed second by second. Just as Carol worried Gareth would strike, a voice rang out. "Kept you waiting? Here's your braised beef stew." The owner brought out 3 bowls of stew. "Please enjoy." Sterling took out chopsticks and started eating. Then he looked at the motionless Gareth. "Aren't you eating?" Gareth huffed coldly, also taking out chopsticks. "Whatever you're planning, it's futile." Carol looked at the two, feeling a headache coming on. On one hand, she had no means to check Gareth. On the other, she couldn't keep up with Sterling's plan and didn't know what arrangements he had. All she could do was watch and wait for an opportunity. The 3 ate their beef stew with their own thoughts. Suddenly, Sterling pulled out a tissue and wiped his mouth. "TSK, the taste of this stew hasn't changed after all these years. Gareth, want to make a bet?" Gareth paused his chopsticks, looking up at Sterling in confusion. Sterling enunciated each word clearly. "Let's bet on whether or not I'll be rescued from you today." Hearing this, Gareth laughed. "Sterling, your arrogant appearance is truly disgusting. However, the expression you'll make when your calculations fail and everything proves futile will be delightful. Tell me, who can save you from me now? Even if there is someone, I will kill you the moment you are rescued." As Gareth spoke, he suddenly felt something flow to the corner of his mouth. Reaching out to touch it, he froze. It was blood. Strange, why would he have a nosebleed? Was the beef stew good? Gareth looked up to see Sterling's smiling face, which even held a hint of admiration. Sterling said slowly, "It had to be you. If it were me, I'd have died after 2 bites of that stew. But you count as having enjoyed a gourmet treat. After all, beef stew cooked personally by the poison doctor, Horace Kane, isn't something just anyone gets to eat." The beef stew was poison. Gareth heard Sterling's words and couldn't help turning his head, looking for the stew shop owner. But there were the only 3 people in the shop. The owner was nowhere to be seen. That person, just now, was Horace Kane. "Of course." Sterling smiled. "My connections in North Point are pretty decent. Some friends see I'm in trouble and are willing to help me out a little." To the side, Carol widened her eyes, looking at the beef stew in front of her. She and Sterling had just eaten it too. Was theirs poisoned? "Don't worry, only his bowl was poisoned. Ours were normal." Sterling saw Carol's worry and added, "Though, the taste really wasn't that great." Carol breathed a sigh of relief and immediately realized Sterling's plan had begun. Without hesitation, she stood up instantly, putting distance between herself and Gareth. Gareth spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, then wiped the overflow from the corner of his mouth, speaking lightly. "The poison is potent, but useless on me. Sterling, you must have learned from the patriarchs of the 4 pillars that blood is a weakness for people like us, right? Pity. I'm different from them." Gareth looked disdainful. "Having evolved, I have transcended their stage and become a higher existence. Weaknesses like blood don't exist for me. This little bit of poison can at most affect my condition slightly. In 2 or 3 days, I'll recover completely." Hearing this, Sterling looked calm and whispered, "I know naturally, so I didn't expect this bit of poison to kill you. Being able to affect you is enough." Immediately, he turned to look at Carol. Carol instantly understood his meaning and shouted immediately, "Do it!" As her voice fell, gunfire erupted. Bullets rained down like a storm, aiming straight for Gareth. With Carol's shout, everyone hidden in the dark moved. However, Gareth smiled disdainfully, as if he had anticipated it. His figure flashed, instantly appearing in a corner, dodging all the bullets attacking him in that instant. Sterling, is this your capability? Gareth shook his head in disappointment. How disappointing. I thought you could make this more fun for me. Game over. I'll find Silas myself, and ask for the location of the North Point horde. You could die now. Gareth's gaze held killing intent. Carol saw this and thought bad. Currently, only she and Sterling were present at close range. They had no ability to intercept Gareth. Was Sterling's plan ending here? Unexpectedly, facing Gareth's killing intent, Sterling said unhurriedly, Gareth, if you wanted to kill me in NYC, I might really have no way out. But this is North Point. Sterling's aura changed. That gentle, refined feeling vanished abruptly, and he stared sharply at Gareth, saying word by word, On my turf, no one can kill me. Hearing such domineering words, even Gareth was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed. Ha ha, good. I'll see who can save you today. Die, Sterling. Gareth moved, throwing a punch at Sterling's head. Carol was shocked. She wanted to block it, but was powerless. Gareth moved too fast for her to react. However, just then he suddenly felt a strong gust of wind pass by. Immediately following was a loud bang. Bang! Gareth's fist was caught by a hand that appeared out of nowhere. The explosion of sound and the resulting air vibration made Carol close her eyes involuntarily. Who was it? Carol didn't have time to see the figure clearly, but in her memory, there were only a few people with such strength. Could it be her son arrived? Thinking of this, Carol eagerly opened her eyes, only to see a black-clad figure shielding Sterling, blocking Gareth's terrifying punch. Who are you? Gareth's pupils shrank, looking at the newcomer's face with surprise. He kept everyone who threatened him, including Leo, in mind. But he didn't remember such a person. And yet, this familiar face. Gareth, haven't seen you in a long time. The black-clad figure spoke, his voice hoarse. Last time I saw you at the annual meeting of the NYC families, you were just a brat. I said back then you wouldn't grow up to be anything good. Looks like I was right. Hearing this, Gareth's pupils shook violently. Memories flooded back like a tide. The face of the person before him slowly merged with a figure from his memories. That unyielding gaze he would never forget. Preston. Sheen. Gareth's eyes were full of disbelief. How can it be you? How can you be Preston Sheen? You should be dead. Preston sneered. If scum like you are still alive, how could I die? When my Sheen family was destroyed back then, your 4 pillars put in a lot of effort. It's time to pay the price. Finishing his sentence, Preston kicked out fiercely, landing hard on Gareth's lower abdomen. Bang! Gareth was sent flying instantly, his body smashing into a white wall, punching right through it. You guys go first. Preston turned to Sterling. Leave this to me. Sterling nodded, then beckoned the dazed Carol to run outside. Carol hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Her eyes were full of astonishment. That black-clad man was Preston Sheen, the former young master of the Sheen family? Wasn't he long dead? Despite the countless questions in her heart, Carol knew now was not the time to space out, so she quickly ran after Sterling. Where do you think you're going? Gareth's voice rang out. He climbed up from the rubble and charged at Sterling. Preston's strike, just now, seemed to have barely hurt him. Sterling, I said you must die today. No one can save you. Countless bullets instantly attacked Gareth, but Gareth ignored them. The attacks were just scratches to him. He only wanted Sterling dead. Just then, atop a tall building not far away, a flash of light appeared. Bang! A distinctively shaped bullet shot from the barrel, traversed the street, mixed among the ordinary bullets, and accurately hit Gareth in the chest. Ugh! Gareth felt a sharp pain in his chest and involuntarily stopped moving, frowning tight. This bullet, there was something wrong with it. High above, Silas looked through the sniper scope and saw Gareth's condition, grinning as he muttered to himself. This bullet of mine is more than enough to take down a dinosaur, and I can't handle a brat like you. Pity the quantity is limited. Use one, lose one. Otherwise, I'd build a compatible Gatling gun and turn you into a sieve. Silas was quite satisfied with the effect of his shot. Not only did it cause some damage to Gareth, but it also successfully intercepted his attack on Sterling. In just this short while, Sterling and the others had successfully rendezvoused with the military personnel. The leader sized up Carol and asked, Captain Evans, are you okay? General Evans ordered me to lead the team to meet you. From now on, our team is under your command. Carol glanced at him and nodded. So it's you, Sarge? I'm fine, but Gareth isn't someone we can deal with. And this is inside the city. We can't use weapons of mass destruction. Retreat is the primary objective. Seize the opportunity and leave. Don't linger in battle. Lieutenant Sarge soon nodded with a grave expression, then turned to look at Gareth in the distance. To be honest, his inner shock was substantial. It was the first time he had met someone who couldn't be killed by that kind of bullet. Is this the rumored variant from NYC? Pretty much. He counts as the harder to deal with kind. Carol turned to Sterling. Do you have any other plans? Nope. Sterling spread his hands helplessly. I used all my strength just to get us rescued safely. You expect me to kill Gareth too? Carol gave Sterling a deep look. God knew how much truth was in this guy's mouth. Not far away, Preston Sheen had rushed out and clashed with Gareth. Damn it, Preston Sheen, you insist on opposing me? Gareth roared. Get out of my way. Watching Sterling escape his grasp made Gareth furious. His attacks became particularly crazed under his rage, beating Preston back steadily. Quick, Preston can't hold on for long. Retreat first, Sterling shouted to Carol. Now isn't the time to kill Gareth. Call your men to cover the retreat. Hearing this, Carol didn't hesitate. She grabbed the walkie-talkie from Lieutenant Sue and shouted, Everyone listen to my command. After we retreat, snipers cover Preston Sheen's retreat. After speaking, Carol turned around to see Sterling had already run far away. That guy? Carol gritted her teeth looking at Sterling's back, but felt helpless. After all, her escape this time was thanks to Sterling. No matter what, she owed him a favor. Soon, Carol led everyone to retreat. Silas combined forces with the military snipers to restrict Gareth's movement, covering Preston's retreat. Preston knew he was no match for Gareth, so while fighting, he looked for a chance to leave. However, the crazed Gareth kept attacking, giving Preston no chance at all. Since you want to save Sterling, then die. Gareth roared. Sterling's escape fueled his rage. Only killing Preston could quell it. However, as time passed, Gareth's condition declined repeatedly. Damn it, it's that poison. Gareth realized immediately that Horace Kane's poison was deepening over time. Injured and locked in combat with Preston, he couldn't attend to it, letting the toxicity spread through his body. If this keeps up, I'm in big trouble. Gareth calmed down instantly. His evolution was incomplete. He needed the lunar amber to perfect it. If his body failed before getting the lunar amber, things would look grim. Thinking of this, Gareth gritted his teeth. After blasting Preston back with a fierce punch, he fled without hesitation. Sterling, Preston Sheen, you all just wait. I will repay everything today 1,000, 10,000 times over. After speaking, Gareth's figure gradually disappeared into the distance. Preston saw this and didn't chase. Instead, he stayed put, panting heavily. If they fought any longer, he really wouldn't have held on. It was only because Gareth was injured and under the influence of poison that he could barely support himself for that short time. In any other situation, he wouldn't be Gareth's match at all. He would only be crushed and toyed with. Target retreated. Seeing Gareth retreat, the others breathed a sigh of relief and reported to George Evans. General Evans, the target escaped. Should we arrest the remaining one? They were referring to Preston Sheen. Soon, George's voice rang out on the walkie-talkie. Are your balls itching from idleness? Can't find anything to do. Hundreds of people couldn't deal with one guy and let the target escape. And you have the nerve to ask me if we should arrest the remaining one. Arrest my ass. Your skin is thicker than a pig's. If I were you, I'd have found a block of tofu to bash my brains out on long ago. Who asked that stupid question? Report your code name. I'll beat you to death later. George's scolding silenced everyone. No one dared to make a sound until he finished. The person who asked the question earlier shrank his head like a chicken, afraid of being exposed. However, a gloating voice suddenly sounded on the walkie-talkie. It was Lieutenant Sue. Reporting to General Evans, Private Cloud asked that question just now. Over. George spoke immediately. All right, Private Cloud, is it? Come find me later. Private Cloud's face turned green. He looked at the walkie-talkie, 10,000 alpacas galloping through his heart. Screw you, Sarge. What deep grudge do I have with you for you to pit me like this? Fine, just you wait. I'll fight you when we get back. If I'm not having a good time, don't think you will either. Meanwhile, Carol looked helplessly at Lieutenant Sue, who had just finished speaking, and sighed. You guy, there's a reason your popularity is low. Heh. Just bored, looking for some fun. Lieutenant Sue laughed, then asked, by the way, why didn't Captain David come back with you? That guy is still cleaning up the mess in NYC. Carol said grumpily. I didn't plan on coming back either. Forget it. It's useless to talk about this now. Let's talk back at base. I still have to report to Dad. General Evans. Hearing this, Lieutenant Sue blinked. Captain, the General probably doesn't have time to listen to your report right now. What? He should be on his way to pick up his grandson right now. Carol widened her eyes. What did you say? Leo, are you all right? In the helicopter, Adrian looked at Leo Evans with concern. He hadn't expected Leo to have such a fatal weakness. Motion sickness and choppers. Ugh, I'm fine. Hurl. Leo covered his mouth, looking utterly miserable. He desperately wanted to find a stick to knock himself out with. But with Adrian sitting right there, doing so would be embarrassing, and besides, there wasn't a suitable stick nearby. He had to tough it out. Adrian's mouth twitched. You don't look fine at all. Is this guy really reliable? How much longer? Hurl. To North Point. Almost there, Leo. Another 30 minutes. Leo nodded at the news and screamed internally at the system. System, get out here. Is there any way to fix my motion sickness? I don't want a heaven splitter skill anymore. Just give me a cure for this. After a long pause, the system's voice finally echoed in Leo's mind. Apologies. This condition is due to the host's physical constitution. This system is powerless to intervene. Trash system. Leo cursed silently. Just as he was about to unleash a tirade, the system chimed again. Additionally, please note, your ultimate mission, Global Icon, is currently only at 20% completion. Please accelerate your progress. Only 20%. Leo's eyes widened. He had caused so much chaos in NYC, and the progress bar had barely moved? Not to mention, his reputation in Viridian was pretty loud by now. Do I really have to make the whole world know who I am? Leo felt a sudden wave of despair. How long is that going to take? What exactly is the reward for this ultimate mission? No comment. Leo rolled his eyes, too tired to ask further. Getting stuck with this trash system was just as bad luck. Getting stuck with a host like you is my bad luck. Oh, screw you, Leo cursed. Back in the beginning, didn't you threaten to wipe me out at the drop of a hat? If you got the guts, wipe me out now. Otherwise, shut your mouth. I've cleaned up the streets from Ethelberg to NYC. You think I can't handle a garbage system like you? The system remained silent. If the system had a physical form, it would probably be slapping itself in the face right now. Leo, we're preparing to land ahead, the pilot said without turning his head. North Point has a strict no-fly zone, and entry requires inspection. I can only drop you here. All right, thanks. Adrian nodded and began gathering their things. Leo let out a sigh of relief. Finally, it was over. Sure enough, the moment they got off the helicopter, Leo humiliatingly found a corner and threw up into a plastic bag. Phew, that feels much better. Leo returned with a refreshed expression, patting Adrian on the shoulder. Let's go. To North Point. Adrian's eye twitched. He always felt that following Leo Evans was never a good idea. But this was Sterling's arrangement, so he had no choice. On the way, he cautioned, Leo, North Point is different from NYC. This place is under military jurisdiction, and there are all kinds of eccentric experts here. You absolutely cannot cause trouble like you did in NYC. Leo waved his hand impatiently. Relax. Do I look like the kind of person who starts trouble? Adrian fell silent, then said, faintly, basically, every place you've been to has exploded. Bullshit, Leo immediately retorted. NYC was Sterling's doing. What does that have to do with me? What about everywhere else? Why are we excluding NYC? That's unfair. Forget it. Adrian couldn't imagine how Leo's subordinates tolerated following him around. Meanwhile, at the city gates. Hey, I just got news. It sounds like a huge battle broke out over at East Side Ridge. For real? How did it go? Seems like they let the target escape. I don't know the specifics, just heard it was pretty insane. Haha, how insane can it be? It's not like they're filming a movie. What do you know? They say it was spooky. Rumor has it the target was a variant from NYC, the kind that bullets just bounce off of. Damn, seriously? I thought those were just stories. Real or fake, I don't know. But General Evans is coming down later. That part is real. Holy shit. Why didn't you say so earlier? Is he coming for an inspection? No. Heard his grandson is coming to North Point. He's coming personally to pick him up. His grandson? While the two guards were chatting, a crisp, polite voice suddenly interrupted them. Hello, brothers. Can we go in? The two chatting guards jumped, turning their heads quickly. They asked, You two aren't from North Point? First time here. That's right. We're here to visit and see some family, Leo said with a sweet, well-behaved smile. Adrian looked at Leo's harmless facade, his eye twitching uncontrollably. Does this guy put on this innocent bunny act every time he goes to a new place to lower people's guard? He's too shady. Tourism? IDs. Leo and Adrian handed over their identification. The guards looked them over, their gazes lingering on Leo's ID. Hiss, Leo Evans? Surnamed Evans. The two guards exchanged a glance, then scrutinized Leo's face. He was indeed college-aged and had the right look. Could it be that coincidental? This, Mr. Evans, one of them asked cautiously. May we ask, do you have relatives in North Point? Yeah, my grandpa is in North Point. Leo nodded. Who is your grandfather? George Evans. Hiss. Hearing that name, the two guards exchanged looks again. Confirmed. This was General Evans' grandson, and they had run right into him. What do we do? One whispered. Let him in, or make him wait here for the general. Are you stupid? The other whispered back. If we didn't know his identity, fine. But now that we know, can we just let him wander in? If he goes in and something happens, gets robbed or mugged, General Evans will flay the skin off our backs. Better to keep him here. We'll take good care of him until the general arrives to pick him up. Then we're in the clear. Right, that makes sense. So the guard handed the IDs back to Leo and Adrian, smiling kindly. Your grandfather is on his way here. Why don't you wait here a bit? You must be tired from the trip. How about some fruit while you rest? Adrian was bewildered by the situation. Wasn't North Point security supposed to be strict? Why were they so friendly? And since when did Leo have a grandfather in North Point? Sterling never mentioned this. Author's note. I regret to inform you that Nines didn't make it. He went to the Cat Planet today. Updates will resume tomorrow. Faster. Go faster. Inside a camouflage SUV, General George Evans, beard bristling, urged the driver. My grandson is about to arrive. Why aren't you flooring it? What are you waiting for? General, we're already speeding, the driver said helplessly. If we keep this up, Commander Hayes will definitely punish us later. I don't give a damn about him. If he dares say one word to me, I'll quit on the spot. George cursed. If you don't believe me, go ask him yourself. Which would be worse for North Point? Losing Commander Hayes or losing me? George Evans. At this, the driver obediently shut his mouth, daring not to speak. Although officially Commander Hayes was George's superior, the key issue was that Hayes had just been transferred from the frontier and hadn't yet won over the troops. Conversely, George Evans had been rooted in North Point for years. The men under him were basically all brought up by his hand. If George really threatened to leave, a single command from him would empty out half the Northwest Military District. Commander Hayes wouldn't even have a corner to cry in. So, facing George, Commander Hayes also had a massive headache. At the slightest disagreement, George would threaten to quit. He was essentially a rolling ball of spikes. The friction between the two was a minor issue for them, but it was miserable for everyone caught in the middle. Neither side was easy to offend. Just then, a man next to George suddenly spoke up. General, we just received news. Your grandson seems to have already arrived at the city gate. What did you say? George jumped up. Are you sure? Positive, the man nodded. They checked the person's ID. It's Leo Evans, all right. The age matches too. Then what are you waiting for? Let them. They've already detained him. They're waiting right at the gate. Did you hear that? Step on the gas. Sir, I told you we're already speeding. The driver wanted to cry. The camouflage SUV sped like a bullet toward the city gate. Meanwhile, at the gate, what? A huge battle broke out at East Side Ridge, and my mom has already been rescued. Leo heard the news about the East Side Ridge battle and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed his old man had some skills after all, not wasting all that time being a local tyrant in North Point. Since his mom was safe, there was no rush. Leo decided to ask around about North Point properly. Of course, just asking around, no ulterior motives. After all, he was already here. He should understand the local customs, right? Brothers, is there anywhere fun in North Point? Leo asked with wide, innocent eyes. The two guards looked at each other, stunned, unsure how to answer. Fun places? In North Point? Was he joking? If killing people counted as fun, then North Point was full of fun places. If he meant scenic spots, sorry, none. Suddenly, one of them seemed to think of something and muttered, the coast over by the frontier is actually quite beautiful. Before he could finish, the other guard slammed a hand over his mouth and whispered angrily, Are you crazy? You're telling a college student to go to the frontier? If something happens to him, are you taking responsibility? The first guard realized his mistake immediately, fear appearing in his eyes. Anyone going to the frontier on a mission had a slim chance of survival. He must have lost his mind to tell him the scenery there was good. Absolutely insane. Cough. I misspoke. The frontier is dirty and messy. Nothing there at all. The man quickly explained to Leo. However, Leo just blinked and nodded. Is that so? I see. So there's an ocean over at the frontier? Leo had grown up in Ethelberg, surrounded by mountains. Aside from a sea, even lakes were rare. Since high school, he had always wanted to see how big the ocean really was. Beside him, Adrian sharply sensed something was wrong. He quickly grabbed Leo and whispered, Don't do anything stupid. The situation at the frontier is complicated. Leo blinked. What's it got to do with me? I'm not going to the frontier. Swear it. I swear on my character. Don't use your character. Pick something else. Then I won't swear. You son of a... Adrian pointed at Leo's nose, too angry to speak. Leo calmly slapped his hand away. Don't be nervous. I'm just going to play, maybe see what the ocean looks like. Besides, because of the mission, he still needed to boost his fame. Of course, he had to visit places he hadn't been to. Otherwise, when would he ever finish this global icon mission? Just then, the sound of an engine roared nearby. An SUV was speeding toward them. Seeing the license plate, the two guards immediately stood at attention and saluted the vehicle. Seeing this, Leo figured it must be the grandfather he had never met. So, he shouted sweetly toward the SUV, "Grandpa, hey, Leo." Hearing Leo's call, George Evans scrambled out of the car, a smile nearly splitting his face. "My dear grandson." Seeing Leo, George's heart swelled with excitement. No mistake. Such a handsome, honest-looking kid. This had to be his grandson. "Come let Grandpa give you a hug." George strode toward Leo, grabbed him in a bear hug, and lifted him off the ground. Leo raised an eyebrow. This old man is strong. "Leo, your dad really is something, letting you come here alone, and even letting you go to a dangerous place like NYC. George looked at Leo with concern as he spoke. "You didn't get hurt over there, did you?" "Don't worry, Grandpa. I had a pretty good time over there," Leo said with a grin. Beside him, Adrian was rolling his eyes so hard it hurt. "Your dear grandson had a pretty good time in NYC, all right." He wiped out the 4 pillars. "You think he's here in North Point to visit relatives? He's here to hunt down Gareth Granger." "Yes, exactly. The monster Gareth Granger. The one hundreds of your men tried to surround and failed to catch. Come, get in the car. Grandpa will take you back." George ushered Leo toward the vehicle, then looked at Adrian. "And this is my friend, Adrian." "Oh, your friend. Well, come along then." At this, someone walked up to George and whispered, "General, in principle, the military zone doesn't allow outsiders." "Screw that. The principles are in my hands. I take whoever I want." George cursed. Adrian looked around. He had nowhere else to go, so he had to follow Leo. "Sorry for the trouble." Adrian bowed politely, then got into the car with Leo. "Slow down. Drive slower." Inside the SUV, George complained loudly. "Can't you see my grandson is in the car? Don't you know traffic laws?" The driver wanted to cry, but had no tears left. "You were the one telling me to drive fast, and now you're telling me to drive slow. Just a moment ago, I told you we were speeding, and you said you didn't give a damn. Now you're talking about traffic laws? What exactly do you want, sir?" Seeing this, Leo casually said, "It's okay, Grandpa. In NYC, my dad took me drag racing every day. I'm used to it." "What?" Hearing this, George was instantly furious. "You say he took you drag racing every day in NYC?" "Yeah, drove super fast. There were a lot of people behind us too, but they couldn't catch up." George gritted his teeth secretly. That was obviously being chased. "Good job, David Evans. Taking my grandson to such a dangerous place like NYC and getting him chased. Just you wait. Leo, tell Grandpa. How was your time in NYC?" "Grandpa, why don't you ask about my time in Ethelberg? Why ask about NYC?" "Cough. It's all the same. You can tell Grandpa everything. Then I'll start with Ethelberg." Leo seemed to get energized, chattering endlessly about his ordinary, mundane college life. "Let me tell you, Grandpa, when I was studying in Ethelberg, I met a really beautiful girl. We started dating, and her family treated me so well. We even went to an island for vacation. Then, taking advantage of the time, I went to participate in a math competition. I went to West Lake City to visit my friend. His family was in a bit of trouble, and I even helped solve it. After that, I went to Viridian and made a lot of friends. I joined a volunteer teaching program there and was a teacher for a while. Then I went back to Ethelberg and got married. After getting married, my dad called me to NYC. I traveled all over NYC and even opened a clinic selling medical supplies." Adrian, listening to Leo's story, turned his face away to stare out the window, remaining silent for a long time. Leo's words, at first glance, had no issues. Just the story of an ordinary high school graduate traveling around. But only those who knew the inside story would understand how insane those travels were. George nodded with a smile, his eyes holding a hint of regret. "It's a pity I couldn't be with Leo during so many happy times." Wait a minute. Something seems off. You said you got married?" George's voice suddenly became sharp. "Where is she from? What kind of family?" "Leo, don't get scammed." Hearing this, Leo quickly smiled. "Don't worry, Grandpa. Dad and Mom have met her. They like her a lot." Hearing this, George finally relaxed. Although David Evans and his wife weren't exactly saints, George trusted their judgment on this matter. If they thought it was okay, then it should be fine. You brat, such a big thing, and you didn't tell Grandpa? George scolded again. If you had told me, no matter how busy I was, Grandpa would have gone to your wedding. Leo smiled awkwardly, thinking to himself, if Dad hadn't told me, I wouldn't even know you were still alive. It's okay, Grandpa. We only got the marriage license. We haven't had the ceremony yet. We were waiting for you. As he spoke, Leo pulled out his phone, found a photo, and showed it to George. It was a picture taken during a date with Ava. In the photo, Ava was holding an ice cream, smiling as she held onto Leo's arm. Leo had a somewhat helpless expression because Reggie the cat had suddenly jumped out and sprawled on his head right as the photo was taken. It looked like a harmonious, happy couple plus a cat. That's wonderful. George stared intently at the photo, examining it for a long time before smiling. She's a beautiful girl. Leo, you must treat her well. Don't worry, Grandpa. Next time, I'll bring her to North Point to see you. Good. What's my granddaughter-in-law's name? Ava Reed. Grandpa, you could just call her Ava. Good. Hearing the name, I know she must be a well-behaved young lady. Leo's eye twitched at that. Well-behaved? You don't know the time your granddaughter-in-law brought people to kidnap me with a sack. That was fierce. Meanwhile, in NYC, the 4 pillars are gone. Such a godsend opportunity. How can we not seize it? The time to rise has come. Seize the chance, and we are the next 4 pillars. The demon Leo Evans has left, and Sterling isn't in NYC. The time, place, and people are all in our favor. Charge! Only David Evans and Director Jensen are left. These two can't stop us, and after the previous battle, they've been drained. They're no match for us. Ignore them. Destiny is with the Sioux family. After the War of the 4 Pillars, the various factions dormant in NYC revealed their ambitions one after another. Leo was gone. Sterling was gone. The 4 Pillars were dead. David Evans' side had suffered heavy losses. Such a situation wouldn't come again in 1,000 years. Swallowing up territories, expanding step by step, and becoming the next 4 pillars was just around the corner. So, the current NYC could be said to be even more chaotic than before. In the suburbs inside David Evans' headquarters, David was clutching his head in pain, looking like he'd eaten something foul. What the hell is this? He originally thought he just had to clean up a mess, but he didn't expect the mess to be this big. The fire at Caldwell's Crossing was still burning. Sterling had just walked away, but who the hell was going to put out such a big fire? David and Director Jensen couldn't possibly guard the remaining resources of the 4 pillars alone. Boss Evans, the Chun crew, and the Sioux clan have started fighting again. Boss Evans, there's movement in the east, suspected attempts on the variant from the 4 pillars. Boss Evans, the Bear family sent out invitations, wanting to gather forces. Boss Evans. People kept calling for David, making his head explode. If he had known this, he would have bolted earlier. He should have dumped this mess on Jensen alone. Wasn't Jensen ambitious? Let him handle it. Boss Evans. Stop yelling. Just say what it is. David roared. And call Leo. Tell him to finish up in North Point and get his ass back here. I can't hold on anymore. North Point, Northwest Military District. Leo looked at the armed guards lining the road and raised an eyebrow. Grandpa, where are we going? To Grandpa's workplace, George said with a smile. Don't be afraid. They're all Grandpa's subordinates. They won't hurt you. He thought Leo was scared seeing the guns. Compared to Leo, Adrian was actually more nervous. Having followed Sterling for so many years, he rarely got along with the military. Plus, Sterling's mission for him was to take Leo to see Julian Reed. With the current situation, how could he? He couldn't even guarantee his own safety. Given how much George doted on Leo, if Adrian made even a small move, he'd probably be treated as a suspicious element and dealt with immediately. Under the circumstances, it was better to wait and see. Just as Leo and the others entered the military zone, inside a certain room, a middle-aged man with graying hair was writing something at his desk. Commander Hayes, General Evans is back. Commander Hayes stopped writing and looked up at the visitor. How was the mission? Heard it wasn't completed. The target escaped. Colonel Stone stood straight, staring directly at Commander Hayes. Commander, I believe George Evans' recent conduct completely violates the duties of an officer. Just now, news came in that to pick up his grandson, he actually used a military vehicle to openly speed through the city area. This behavior is simply a desecration of the uniform we wear. He should be stripped of his position. Hearing this, Hayes sighed and spoke earnestly. Colonel Stone, I know you don't get along with General Evans, and some of his actions indeed break discipline. However, The position of general isn't something you can just strip away. Some things are complicated and can't be explained in a few sentences. You are still young. Following me here from the frontier, I know you want to make a difference, but you're too impatient. Hayes looked meaningfully at Colonel Stone, enunciating each word. Remember, sharpness is something you reveal only where it should be revealed. Stone was momentarily speechless. There were 3 generals in the Northwest Military District. Himself, George Evans, and another one, Colonel Grant, who turned a blind eye to everything but was good friends with George. From the first day he arrived, Stone couldn't stand George's style and didn't understand how such a person could hold the rank of general. Nor did he understand why Hayes turned a blind eye to George's actions. By the way, did he pick up his grandson? Hayes suddenly asked. Yes. Stone frowned. Besides his grandson, there was another person. This completely breaks the rules. Rules are dead. People are alive. The grandfather and grandson haven't seen each other for so many years. Just turn a blind eye, Hayes advised kindly. Don't disturb him for a while. Let him spend some time with his grandson. Hearing this, Colonel Stone turned and left without a word. Watching Stone's retreating back, Hayes knew the guy was unconvinced and sighed secretly. Damn it, if I knew it was like this, I wouldn't have come to this hellhole even if I died. I should have stayed at the frontier until I rotted. We're people who fight and kill. Why send me here to deal with office politics? After Stone left, he returned to his own sector and scanned the area casually. Soon, his gaze settled on a shirtless man pumping iron. Nighthawk, come here. If Leo were present, he would have recognized immediately that this man was Nighthawk, who had escaped from Viridian. Clang! The dumbbell smashed heavily onto the ground as Nighthawk walked towards Stone. What is it, Colonel? Stone looked at Nighthawk and said in a low voice, Take Zeke phone and a few brothers over to George Evans' side for a sparring session later. Specifically look for Lieutenant Sarge Sue and his crew. I heard their captain, Carol Evans, returned to the team today. If possible, spar with her too. Take them down a peg. Carol Evans? Nighthawk frowned. I don't hit women. Then stick to Sarge Sue and the others. Whatever you want. With your strength. Since Major Griffin isn't around, few on their side are your match. Fine, I'll go in a bit. Nighthawk agreed, then turned back to continue training. To him, this was a trivial matter. Since arriving here, he found that this life suited him better. The battle in Viridian felt like it happened just last night, lingering in his mind. He wanted to become stronger, strong enough to change everything. Only this place could help him become stronger. On the other side, Zeke Phone was training just as hard. His thoughts were similar to Nighthawk's. After the battle in Viridian, they came to North Point and found their home. They both had a goal in their hearts. Defeat Leo Evans. Wow, Grandpa, this place is huge. Is all of this yours? Leo got out of the car, looking at the vast training ground around him, and let out a heartfelt exclamation. Of course, he was faking it. Brother Leo had traveled south and north, cleaning up the streets for years. What scenes hadn't he witnessed? Wah-ha! George laughed heartily. Of course. This area, that area, lots of places are under your grandpa's command. Come, I'll show you where Grandpa works. After speaking, George suddenly remembered something and said to the man beside him, Griffin, take my grandson's friend for a walk around. Yes, General. Major Griffin nodded, then turned to look at Adrian. Shall we go? Adrian nodded helplessly. Since he was here, could he resist? This move was obviously because they feared his identity wasn't clean and didn't want him accessing classified intelligence. Adrian had no way to prove himself right now, so he had to comply. Sorry, friend. There have been a lot of spies in North Point recently. Please understand, Griffin said frankly. It's okay, I understand. Adrian nodded. The two walked in silence until Griffin suddenly asked, You guys aren't ordinary people, are you? Adrian raised an eyebrow and turned to look at him. I observed you in the car. You and the general's grandson are too calm. Griffin spoke slowly. You were all right, but Leo Evans' behavior was too exaggerated. As a normal college student, seeing a grandfather he hasn't seen in years, then being suddenly brought to a military zone. Any other person, no matter how slow their reflexes, would have some other reaction. But neither you nor Leo did. And Leo showed no negative emotions from start to finish. In this situation, either he's a simple-minded optimist, or everything is within his control. Combined with the fact that David Evans sent him to NYC, I lean towards the second possibility. Am I right? Adrian's pupils constricted, looking at this man with a serious gaze. Before, he thought this guy was just a clerical assistant, but now it seemed he wasn't that simple. May I ask your name? Adrian asked. Griffin. Griffin said slowly. I'm the captain of the 1st unit under General Evans. David Evans and Carol Evans can both be counted as my apprentices. North Point, East Side Ridge, inside a courtyard house. Phew, I thought we had it in the bag this time. Didn't expect him to escape. Silas and Julian Reed had returned here immediately after the battle ended. Shane Quill sat honestly on a stone stool, not daring to run around. Even sitting here, just now, he could hear the commotion of the battle outside. He knew Julian was right. Staying here was the safest option. All right, if we really killed Gareth Granger, that would have made things troublesome instead. Julian sat down slowly, feeling a bit parched. He picked up the tea on the table and took a sip. Exhaling a long breath, he continued, "As long as the person was rescued, the rest has nothing to do with us." Nothing to do with us? Silas blinked. We pulled off such a huge operation, and there's no follow-up? There's a follow-up, but we aren't the ones doing it. Who? Me. A voice rang out, and Silas and Shane turned to look. A figure stood at the main gate, slowly walking toward them. It was Sterling. Phew, I'm exhausted. Sterling glanced at the teacup in Julian's hand and immediately turned his head. Silas, bring me a cup too. I'm dying of thirst. Hearing Sterling's tone, Silas frowned, a bit annoyed. You asked me to brew, and I brew? Where's my dignity? Cut the crap. 1 cup of tea is 10 grand, deducted from the debt you owe me from before, Sterling said without hesitation. Right away. Please wait a moment. Silas's expression changed instantly, and he scrambled into the house to pour tea for Sterling. Shane's mouth twitched. Silas was truly hopeless. Years ago, although Silas had a gambling addiction, he wasn't an irrational degenerate, so he often won and lost. It wasn't a huge problem, until he met Sterling, and then Julian Reed. As the saying goes, if you walk by the river often, your shoes are bound to get wet. Silas didn't expect to just get his shoes wet. He nearly drowned. It was his own fault for being arrogant and refusing to submit to Sterling, getting carried away. Silas swore he had only gotten carried away twice in his life, once with Sterling and the other with Julian. 2 instances of getting carried away resulted in a debt he couldn't repay. It made Silas want to slap himself every time he thought about it late at night. Nowadays, both Julian and Sterling were his major creditors. As for how much he owed, Silas could only say it was an astronomical figure. It all depended on whether these 2 living devils could find it in their hearts to spare him a way out. Otherwise, he was destined to be their beast of burden for life. Soon, Silas came out of the house with a cup of tea, placed it in front of Sterling, and left without hesitation. For a moment, only 3 people sat on the stone stools. Shane sat in the middle, looking at Julian, then at Sterling. Not good. Shane screamed internally, standing up immediately to flee the area. However, the moment he stood up, Sterling called out to him. Prophet, didn't I ask you to deliver the mithril pistol? Where is it? Shane froze, stammering this. There was a little accident on the way. Sterling frowned. What accident? Don't tell me you lost it. It was indeed lost. Before Shane could speak, Julian interjected. But it's in Leo Evans' hands, so it's not a big problem. With Leo? Sterling paused for a moment, then looked at Shane and sighed. I asked you to deliver the mithril pistol because of your divination skills. I didn't expect an accident, anyway. Shane looked aggrieved. I did a reading before leaving NYC. The hexagram showed smooth sailing. But that kid, he's a complete variable. Can't calculate him at all. Shane was genuinely aggrieved. Who knew that kid had such skills? The mithril pistol was in a box only Silas could open. Who knew Leo could steal it? Did you know, Sterling? All right, since it's with Leo, there shouldn't be any issues. Maybe this benefits our plan even more. Julian rested his chin on his hand on the stone table, his expression calm. That's your business. I've done what I promised you, and you owe me a favor. After all, I practically saved you. Sterling raised an eyebrow. Without you, I still had other ways to save myself. I don't know about that. Anyway, you owe me a favor. How do you want me to repay it? Sterling said helplessly. If nothing else, I can mortgage Silas to you. What I need him for? He owes me money too. Julian shook his head, rejecting Sterling's proposal. Just owe it for now. He didn't want anything else. He just wanted Sterling's favor. Even if he didn't use it, he wanted Sterling to owe him. Not for anything else, just for the fact that Sterling owed him. Sterling saw through Julian's thoughts and felt somewhat helpless. I'll have to find a way to pay back this favor later, Sterling thought. But right now, there were more important things to do. Gareth Granger has run. The bait has been cast. Now we just wait for the fish to bite. Sterling spoke slowly. In the next couple of days, I'll have people spread the news about Gareth and the North Point horde far and wide. By then, whether it's in North Point or spies buried elsewhere in the country, they will flock to North Point like ducks. And if they want the horde, any smart person will inevitably seek out Gareth Granger to collaborate. Using Gareth as bait to fish out all the spies buried in the country at once and wiped them clean. Beside them, Shane broke into a sweat hearing Sterling's words. He hadn't expected Sterling's scheme to be so grand. But soon, he realized the problem. When did Sterling and Julian start plotting this plan? Back in NYC, with Sterling's intelligence capabilities, would he really have been played by Gareth Granger? Sterling, did you know long ago that Gregory Granger was dead? Shane really wanted to know the answer to this question. Hearing this, Sterling glanced at him and said meaningfully, "It's precisely because Gregory died that this plan exists. After all, with Gareth's arrogant personality, he's easier to manipulate, and the plan has a higher margin for error. If the one who successfully evolved was Gregory instead of Gareth, I might not have dared to take such a risk. That old guy had too many schemes. He wasn't suitable bait. Gareth is much better. Simple-minded and impulsive. Didn't that make it easy to trick him into coming to North Point?" Hearing Sterling's words, Shane was now thoroughly convinced. From start to finish, every setup Sterling laid in NYC was to get Gareth Granger to North Point. And Julian Reed was the contingency Sterling left for himself. "Leo, come look, this is Grandpa's office." George brought Leo to his office, only to see a burly man in a navy blue t-shirt standing rigidly at the door. It looked like he was here to find George, but since George wasn't in, he had been waiting there. General Evans. Seeing George appear, the man immediately stood at attention and saluted. His gaze was fixed on George, not glancing at Leo once, seemingly carrying a hint of worry. "Cloud, what are you doing here?" "You told me to come find you after I got back." "Cloud, Captain Cloud," said carefully, "because I accidentally misspoke during the operation. It wasn't a big deal originally. If no one said anything, no one would know he said it. But that damn Sarge Sue just had to jump out and report him. It made him terrified while waiting for George to return." "Oh, that matter." George slapped his forehead, then said directly, "Go back right now, take your squad, and add 3 hours of extra training. Consider it your punishment." Hearing this, Cloud quickly said, "Sir, I act alone. This has nothing to do with them." If I don't do this, that mouth of yours will never be cured." George showed no mercy. "Any more nonsense, and it's 5 hours." Seeing this, Cloud had to brace himself and accept the punishment, leaving resentfully. Before leaving, he deliberately glanced at Leo, thinking to himself, "This is General Evans' grandson? Looks like a pretty boy. I can make him cry with one punch. TSK, TSK, TSK. Coming here is really a lamb entering the wolf's den." Cloud was originally a chatterbox and mostly straightforward, speaking without thinking. If George wasn't here, he probably would have said even more disparaging things about Leo. In the Northwest Military District, strength was the hard truth. If you were stronger than me, whatever you said was right. But Leo's frail appearance, even as George's grandson, wouldn't earn him any respect. 3 hours of extra training. How am I going to explain this to them? Cloud walked out with a depressed look, worrying. Just then a whistle sounded nearby. Turning his head, Cloud instantly burned with anger. "Sarge Sue, you son of a... You still have a face to come see me." The person whistling at him not far away was none other than Sarge Sue, who had reported him. "Why look at me like I'm your mortal enemy?" Sarge Sue asked, gloating. "How did the general punish you?" "Thanks to you. Our whole squad has to train for 3 extra hours, Cloud said through gritted teeth. Hearing this, Sarge Sue's mouth opened slightly, feigning sympathy. "It's okay, Cloud. I'll bring my squad to keep you company and cheer for you guys. You probably won't make dinner, so I'll grab a few buns for you. No need to thank me. We're brothers after all." Hearing these gloating words, Cloud couldn't hold back anymore. "Sarge Sue, I'm fighting you today." He rushed forward and wrestled with Sarge Sue. The two were evenly matched, fists flying left and right, neither giving an inch. "What are you two doing?" Only with a loud shout did the two stop, turning their heads simultaneously. They saw Carol Evans standing with hands on her hips, looking at them unhappily. "Captain." The two immediately stood straight, their faces bruised and swollen, looking at Carol. "Are you two full and have nothing to do?" Carol glared at them, speechless. "If others see this, I'll lose all face because of you." Cloud and Sarge Sue buried their heads, not daring to speak. Carol was their leader. They were brought up by her hand, so they didn't dare talk back. "Get out of here immediately. It's annoying seeing you two as soon as I get back." Carol waved her hand. She had more important things to do and didn't bother arguing with them. Usually, these two would have gotten an earful. Hearing this, Cloud and Sarge Sue quickly scrambled away. The two who were just fighting started whispering to each other as they retreated. "Hey, didn't Captain go to report the NYC situation to Commander Hayes? Why is she back suddenly? How should I know?" Maybe she came to see her son. General Evans' grandson? Is he here? Yeah, I just saw him. A frail pretty boy, too sheltered. I can make him cry with one punch. Heh, if you dare punch him, I'll respect you as the man. Are you looking for trouble? Hey, you want to go again? After getting far enough away, finding a secluded spot, they started fighting again. Meanwhile, in George's office, Leo sat on the leather sofa, looking around at the room's decorations. Very clean and sharp, basically nothing superfluous. Leo, Grandpa arranged a hotel for you tonight. Tomorrow I'll take you around North Point. How about it? George asked with a smile. Leo nodded. Whatever you say, Grandpa. George's smile widened. Just as he was about to say something else, a knock came at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Who is it? It's me. George was stunned, hearing the voice. Carol? Shouldn't she be reporting to Commander Hayes right now? Come in. Carol pushed the door open, looking at George, and spoke immediately. Emergency meeting. Your phone wasn't going through, so I came personally to get you. Emergency meeting? George frowned, touching his pocket. Shoot, I think I left my phone in the car. It's fine. Have Griffin find it for you later. You come with me to the meeting now. After finishing speaking, Carol noticed Leo sitting on the sofa. Leo looked at Carol, flashed a smile, and waved a hand in greeting. Mom, it's so good that you're okay. Carol's scalp went numb instantly. She looked at George in disbelief. You brought this kid into the military base? Nonsense. George was unhappy hearing this. If I didn't bring him here, what if something happened to Leo outside? Him? In trouble? We might be in trouble here, but he definitely won't be. But Carol knew George didn't know the truth about Leo yet. Plus, the grandfather and grandson hadn't seen each other for so long. George was bound to be emotional. She would have to explain Leo's situation slowly later. The urgent matter was getting George to the meeting. You come with me to the meeting first. Carol finished, then turned to look at Leo. As for you, stay here honestly. Don't go anywhere. No causing trouble. Do you hear me? Hearing this, Leo blinked innocently and nodded. Don't worry, Mom. I'll be obedient. I'll just stay here at Grandpa's place and won't go anywhere. Carol looked at Leo's good boy act and didn't trust him one bit. She wished she could watch him every second. Why are you being so strict? George saw Carol's attitude toward Leo and was immediately dissatisfied. Once an emergency meeting starts, it takes at least a few hours. You want Leo to stay in this small room for hours? I'm a general of this district. Can't my grandson have some freedom here? Leo, Griffin will come over in a bit. If you want to go anywhere, just tell him, and he'll arrange it. Hearing this, Carol opened her mouth to say something, but George interrupted directly. All right, let's go to the meeting. Saying that, he pulled Carol and walked out. Grandpa, don't worry about me. Just focus on a meeting. Leo's voice rang out. George looked gratified. Listen to that. What a sensible child. Carol's face was dark, and she remained silent. She couldn't be bothered anymore. Let whatever happen, happen. Some people learn by listening, others learn by hitting a wall. With her son's personality, within a day, he would definitely cause something. Then George would know the true face of his good grandson. After watching Carol and George leave, Leo raised an eyebrow, stepped out of the office door without hesitation, and slammed it shut with a bang. Stay here honestly? Was she joking? He was in his rebellious phase, okay? Didn't she say the meeting would take a few hours? It didn't even take that long to sweep through the Westcott estate in NYC. Since I'm here, it wouldn't be right not to look around carefully. Leo walked out with a swagger, looking for some fun. On one hand, he was curious about the training methods here. Maybe they would be helpful to him. Since the system stopped giving skills, Leo began thinking about other ways to improve his strength. After all, honestly speaking, fighting Gareth Granger was still a bit strenuous for him now. But he didn't hold much hope in this regard, as the system had given what it should. If there really were other ways to improve, it would be following Gareth's path. Leo didn't want to become neither human nor ghost. On the other hand, Leo had once heard David Evans say that there were many one-in-a-million experts in the Northwest Military District. If it came to a fight, even variants might be beatable. Leo wanted to see if there were really such outrageous people. After all, he relied on a system. They relied on genuine training. What exactly is this emergency meeting about? Why the rush? On the way, George frowned and asked, with Commander Hayes' personality, if it weren't something major, he wouldn't call an emergency meeting. Carol nodded, her tone slightly urgent. A bad piece of news just came from the frontier. In a recent battle, the U.S. deployed a type of robot equipped with intelligence systems. These robots not only have self-destruct functions, but also reconnaissance and other effects. Currently, we don't know if the U.S. can mass-produce these robots. If they can, we're in trouble. Hearing this, George's eyes instantly became serious. This was indeed bad news, and, as a high-ranking officer, he knew a bit more than Carol. Intelligent military robots were originally researched by China first. This was classified, but now the U.S. had developed them first and put them into use. What did this mean? Those damn spies. George didn't even need to think. Surely some spy had leaked the core of China's research, allowing the U.S. to create the robots first. Soon, the two arrived at the conference room. At this moment, only a few people were seated inside. A meeting of this level wasn't something ordinary people qualified for. Commander Hayes, 3 general-level officers, each bringing 1 major captain. A total of 7 people participating in this meeting. Seeing George arrive late, Colonel Stone kept a cold face and didn't speak, but his expression was clearly unhappy. Another officer, Colonel Grant, pretended not to see anything, sipping tea from his thermos calmly, waiting for the meeting to start. Seeing George arrive, Commander Hayes coughed lightly. Since everyone is here, let's begin. Before we start, I must state that the content of today's meeting is top secret. No one is allowed to reveal a single word. Hayes' tone was incredibly serious, his gaze sweeping over everyone present, enunciating each word. This is a matter of great importance. I hope no one makes things difficult for me. Hearing this, everyone present nodded. They weren't new recruits. Naturally, they knew the gravity of the situation. Seeing this, Hayes wasted no more words and officially began the meeting. While Hayes and the others were in the meeting, inside a certain area of the military zone, a conflict was about to erupt. Nighthawk, what the hell do you mean? Cloud and Sarge Sue, both bruised and swollen, stared angrily at the newcomer, taking advantage of Griffin's absence to come here and find trouble. Hearing this, Nighthawk crossed his arms over his chest and said calmly, I just brought people over to spar with you. Are you afraid? Afraid? Are you joking? We fear no one, least of all you. At this moment, Zeke Fong suddenly spoke up, his tone mocking. Heard you guys just came back from a mission, let the target escape and failed? I told you if you suck, train more. If you don't train more normally, what if the target escapes again next time? I feel embarrassed for your General Evans. Hearing these mocking words, Cloud and the others instantly became furious. You motherf. Sarge Sue cursed first, gritting his teeth. Even if I risk this life today, I have to spar with you properly. Nighthawk smirked disdainfully. Fine, let's do this. 5 people from each side. Ring battle. The losing side runs 20 laps around the entire base, shouting that they are trash while running. How about it? Dare to accept? Hearing this, Cloud and Sarge Sue looked at each other. Frankly speaking, without Griffin, they had no chance of winning. But with people bullying them to their faces, how could they endure it? Cloud, Sarge, don't be afraid. We accept. Behind them, a group of men shouted red-faced. Even if we get beaten down, we absolutely can't chicken out. Exactly. Take them down. At worst, when Griffin gets back, we'll get him to win it back. Fight them. Hearing the shouts behind them, Cloud and Sarge Sue felt reassured. All right, Nighthawk, we accept this ring battle. TSK, such a huge place. How come there's not even a single person? Leo walked with his hands in his pockets, looking around, having no idea where he had wandered off to. Suddenly, he raised an eyebrow, sensing someone appear behind him. Leo Evans, what are you doing here? Griffin's voice rang out. Leo turned around, not answering the question, but looking around Griffin's vicinity. Where's Adrian? I just dropped him off at the arranged hotel. Griffin stared intently at Leo. You haven't answered my question. What are you doing here? My grandpa went to a meeting, so I'm wandering around nearby. Leo spread his hands, looking helpless. But this place of yours is really too big. Not only did I get lost, I couldn't even find anyone to ask for directions. Hearing this, Griffin fell silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. This is a military zone. Many places are restricted. If you want to look around, I can take you elsewhere. Leo nodded. Sorry for the trouble then. Griffin gave him a deep look, then stepped forward, leading Leo in a certain direction. I'll take you to our training grounds first. There aren't many rules there, and most of them are your mother's team members. Leo nodded. It didn't matter where they went. He just planned to wander randomly anyway. He walked behind Griffin, his pace unhurried, his eyes looking Griffin up and down. Honestly, Leo was now a little interested in this guy named Griffin. Just now, when I sensed him, Griffin had already appeared silently behind me. That method is interesting. Even Ethan hiding in corners, throwing knives can't be that shady. But Leo didn't care too much. After all, he wasn't using cheats just then. If Griffin could approach him like that while he was using cheats, then Leo would give him a thumbs up. Soon, the two arrived at the training ground. Leo heard the noise from far away. Beautiful. Nighthawk a 1v3 sweep. Sarge Sue, you guys suck. Aside from Griffin, don't you have anyone capable? Just surrender already. Go run laps and shout the slogans. Haha. Cloud and Sarge Sue stood below the ring, their faces incredibly ugly. They had sent up 3 people, and all were easily taken down by Nighthawk, without even the strength to fight back. How about it? 2 more, and it's a clean sweep of 5. Are you 2 coming up? Nighthawk looked at Cloud and Sarge Sue provocatively, extending a hand and hooking his finger at them. Damn it, this is bullying, Cloud roared, jumping onto the ring first. Without any hesitation, he rushed straight at Nighthawk, his sandbag-sized fists attacking relentlessly. However, all these attacks were dodged lightly by Nighthawk. Not far away, seeing this scene, Griffin frowned, roughly understanding what was happening. Sorry, wait here for me. I'm going to handle this. Saying that, Griffin walked toward the ring. Leo blinked, his eyes watching the fighting figure, feeling somewhat emotional. The world is really damn small. Leo never expected to see Nighthawk here. After the battle in Viridian, he had almost forgotten about such a person. He got recruited. Leo found a shady spot to sit, watching everything unfolding in the distance with great interest. Fisk, if only I had some sunflower seeds right now. Not even a snack shop, 0 stars. Leo felt some regret. In the future, when going out, he should keep some seeds in his pocket. For nothing else but watching the drama. At this moment on the ring, Nighthawk had already launched a counterattack, seizing an opportunity to land a solid punch on Cloud's lower abdomen. Ugh, Cloud groaned, his body falling backward. Before he hit the ground, his leg was struck again by Nighthawk. Facing Nighthawk's fierce assault, Cloud had no chance to catch his breath. Cloud, seeing this, Sarge Sue couldn't help shouting anxiously. Get down, surrender. Impossible. Cloud's face was ashen, sweat pouring from his forehead. Even if I die, I'll fight him to the end. Once he surrendered, it wasn't just his own face he lost, but the face of the brothers behind him. Cloud knew he wasn't Nighthawk's match, and knew victory in today's ring battle was hopeless. But a 1v5 sweep was something he absolutely couldn't accept. It was no different from letting them shit on their heads. While he could still fight, he risked his life to create an opportunity for Sarge Sue behind him. Even if he couldn't win, he had to take a bite out of Nighthawk. Seeing this, Nighthawk also guessed Cloud's thoughts, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. In that case, don't blame me for being impolite. Although he wouldn't kill Cloud, putting him in bed for a few days was sufficient. With this thought, Nighthawk threw a punch with full force at Cloud's ribs. He used all his strength in this punch, enough to make Cloud lose mobility. Cloud, seeing this, Sarge Sue disregarded everything, about to rush up to block it for him. Just then, a figure rushed onto the ring faster than him, appearing beside Cloud in the blink of an eye. Bang! Nighthawk's punch stopped abruptly because his wrist was clamped tight by a large hand. Nighthawk, you've crossed the line. Griffin looked at Nighthawk with indifferent eyes and continued. Is today's ring battle your idea? Or Colonel Stone's? Major, Griffin. Cloud turned his head in disbelief, then breathed a sigh of relief, the pressure on his body vanishing instantly. Griffin was here. Everything was fine today. Below the ring, seeing Griffin appear, Sarge Sue and the others were excited beyond measure. It's Griffin. Griffin is here. Damn, let's see them be arrogant now. Griffin sweep 5. Griffin sweep 5. With Griffin's appearance, the despondency of Sarge Sue and the others instantly dissipated, as if they had found their backbone. Griffin, you finally came. Seeing Griffin appear, Nighthawk showed no surprise, as if he had expected Griffin to show up all along. Or rather, he did all this to force Griffin to appear. Since losing to you by 1 move last time, I've always wanted to fight you again. Nighthawk looked at Griffin and said in a low voice, How about it? Will you fight? Griffin looked at Cloud, then at the excited Sarge Sue and the others, inhaled slowly, and spat out one word. Fight! Hearing this, Sarge Sue and the others were even more excited. Go Griffin! Kill that big black hawk! Make them run laps and shout slogans. Sweep 5! Sweep 5! Sweep 5! In the distance, watching this scene, Leo narrowed his eyes slightly. He had fought Nighthawk and Viridian before. Frankly speaking, he wasn't weak. Could Griffin really win? On the ring, Griffin and Nighthawk stood facing each other like 2 great trees. Below the stage, many held their breath, eyes fixed tightly on the ring, afraid to blink and miss a single detail. Griffin and Nighthawk were practically the top combat power of the entire military district. Watching these 2 fight, everyone could learn something. Sarge Sue supported Cloud, eyes revealing unprecedented confidence. In their eyes, Griffin would absolutely never lose. Griffin, save the nonsense. Let's begin. Nighthawk's eyes sank, growling. Let me see if you can still beat me by one move like before. Voice falling, the two rushed toward each other like arrows from a bow. Nighthawk attacked first, a fierce straight punch carrying the sound of wind, aiming straight for Griffin's face. Griffin's expression was calm, reacting quickly. He dodged sideways, easily avoiding the fierce strike. Simultaneously, he followed the momentum with a whip kick, like a sharp battle axe, sweeping toward Nighthawk's waist. Nighthawk's expression changed slightly, and he quickly crossed his arms, forcefully blocking the kick. However, the power of this strike was not small. The huge impact made his feet carve two deep marks on the ground. Just moments into the exchange, Nighthawk had fallen to a disadvantage. Seeing this from afar, Leo raised an eyebrow, his eyes holding a bit of surprise. He's got some skills. And looking at Griffin's relaxed appearance, it seemed he hadn't used his full strength yet. Thinking this, the two sides in the distance began fighting again. Both of their strengths far exceeded that of ordinary people. And this was just a hand-to-hand contest. If it were a real life-and-death struggle, it would likely be even more dangerous. Nighthawk grew this fast. He can already fight Griffin to a standstill. Still lacking a bit. Griffin is too strong. There are simply no openings. Nonsense, Griffin is our district's #1 in overall strength, someone on the Frontier blacklist. But honestly, if Nighthawk went to the Frontier too, he could probably make the blacklist and scare those foreigners to death. The content of these chats, unsurprisingly, was all heard by Leo, whose ears were pricked up. Soon, Leo quietly walked up and naturally patted one of them on the shoulder, asking, "Hey brother, what's this Frontier blacklist you just mentioned?" The man turned and glanced at Leo. "Who are you? I'm new. Haven't reported in yet." Leo smiled, then added, "Tell me about it quickly." Hearing this, the man didn't suspect much. Although Leo wasn't wearing a uniform, most people who could enter the military zone had clean identities. Plus, what Leo asked wasn't classified, so filled with a sense of responsibility to instruct a rookie, he said confidently, "Listen well, rookie. The so-called Frontier Blacklist refers to a must-kill list issued jointly by other countries because certain individuals from our country performed too outstandingly in battles at the frontier. Anyone on the list will be targeted by all countries except ours once they arrive at the frontier. You could say it's an honor, but also a danger. Making the Frontier Blacklist is a recognition of strength, but likewise, it makes your situation more dangerous." Hearing this explanation, Leo's eyes sparkled. "There's such a fun thing?" He continued, asking immediately, "So that Griffin on the ring right now is a member of the Frontier Blacklist?" "That's right. Griffin was listed a long time ago. Does our district have others on that blacklist?" "We do, brother, we do," the man said proudly. "Naturally, there's more than one person as strong as Griffin. There are 7 in total in our district, but most of them are guarding the frontier. Griffin came back to handle some matters recently, but he'll have to go back after a while." "I see." Leo felt a stirring in his heart. So, there were a lot of people at the frontier, many countries present. If he went there and caused a scene, got on that blacklist, wouldn't even foreigners know of his existence? Then wouldn't the progress bar for the Global Icon mission be maxed out? Thinking of that progress bar stuck at 20-something% made Leo feel terrible. Now, he had found a direction. No matter what, he had to take this opportunity to go to the frontier. This was his great chance to complete the mission. As for Gareth Granger, he had long thrown him to the back of his mind. Wasn't Sterling and Julian Reed there? Together, couldn't they play Gareth to death? Besides, the key to the North Point Horde was in his hands, so why panic? He'd take the mithril pistol to the frontier, and if Gareth really wanted that horde, wouldn't he have to follow him to the frontier? In North Point, Leo couldn't easily show off his skills, but in a place like the frontier, even without Sterling acting, he could scheme Gareth to death. At this moment, Leo even felt a little sympathy for Gareth. Simply a tool. The man chatting with Leo suddenly noticed he couldn't hear Leo's voice anymore, turning his head while asking, "Hey, by the way, rookie, which captain subordinate or why? Where is he?" He looked around in bewilderment, but there was no sign of Leo, as if no one had been talking to him just now. Saw a ghost. Meanwhile, on the ring, although Nighthawk's offense was fierce, anyone with eyes could tell he was still at a disadvantage. Damn it, why is it always just a little short? Nighthawk was somewhat unwilling. If he couldn't even beat Griffin, what would he use to fight Leo? Forget it, Nighthawk. If it's pure hand-to-hand combat, if you keep training like this, you can indeed fight me to a draw. Griffin spoke slowly. But in a real life-and-death struggle, even if you train for another 100 years, you won't be my match. Because you've never fought at the frontier, so you will never win against me. Shut up. Nighthawk panted heavily, growling, I don't believe it. I've experienced countless battles in my life. Whether I go to the frontier or not is unimportant. No, quite the opposite. What you experienced were just battles. Griffin enunciated each word. But over at the frontier, rather than calling it combat, it's better to call it war. Combat and war are different. You're not weak. If you really go to the frontier, perhaps you can truly evolve and grow. You have the conditions. Griffin looked at Nighthawk with burning eyes and continued, Nighthawk, if you really want to beat me, then come back to the frontier with me. Go back to the frontier with you? Nighthawk's eyes shook. He hadn't expected Griffin to say such things to him. He took a deep breath, his eyes flickering. Truth be told, he did have thoughts of going to the frontier. Those who carved a path out of the frontier were never weak. I'll think about it. Nighthawk paused, then added, this match counted as my loss. He understood that if they continued fighting, he would absolutely not be Griffin's match. It might end with him losing by just a move again, which would be disgusting. Better to admit defeat early. We agreed on a ring battle, 5 people. Nighthawk turned back to look at the men behind him. If you guys think you can fight, step up. If you can't, admit defeat, run the laps, shout the slogans. With that, Nighthawk stepped off the ring first. The remaining men looked at each other, all silent. Are you kidding? What's the point of fighting? If it were Cloud or Sarge Sue, maybe they could go up and try. Fight Griffin, go home, and sleep. What's wrong? You guys were so arrogant just now. Griffin gets here, and you all turn mute. Hurry up and roll out to run laps. Remember to shout loudly that you're trash. Chop chop. Hurry up and surrender. These were the exact words they had used to mock Sarge Sue's group earlier. Now, hearing them, they sounded incredibly harsh. Nighthawk saw no one dared to go up and said calmly, in that case, count it as all of us losing. We accept the loss. We'll run. Saying that, he led his men to fulfill the bet. Seeing this, Griffin prepared to step down from the ring. Step, step, step. Just then, the patter of footsteps rang out. A figure slowly walked onto the ring. Don't be in such a rush to leave. The voice attracted everyone's attention. Leo stepped onto the ring step by step, standing opposite Griffin, smiling. Major Griffin, how about we try? Nighthawk looked at that familiar figure and froze on the spot. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief, daring not to believe that the person he dreamed of defeating day and night had suddenly appeared before his eyes. Who is this guy? Actually challenging Griffin? Never seen him. Which squad? Fresh face. These days, rookies really don't know the height of the sky and the depth of the earth. Hurry up and get him down. Can just anyone challenge Griffin? Cloud saw Leo's face and his jaw dropped. Holy SH. What's wrong, Cloud? You know that guy? Sarge Sue asked upon seeing this. Nonsense. Hurry the hell up and get that kid down. Cloud was so anxious his face turned red. That's General Evans' grandson. If something actually happens, we're all done for. What? Sarge Sue was scared pale by these words. That's him. Good Lord. How could it be this little ancestor? If something happened, let alone George Evans, Carol Evans would skin them alive. Thinking of this, Sarge Sue quickly ran over and shouted at Leo, little brother, come down quickly. Then, he shouted at Griffin, Griffin, this is the general's. I know. Griffin interrupted Sarge Sue, his gaze fixed tightly on Leo. Are you sure you want to fight me? Hearing this, Sarge Sue and the others were stunned. What was going on? Griffin actually wanted to fight? Now, Evans. Before the crowd could react, Nighthawk let out a roar, drawing everyone's attention. He glared deathly at Leo, growling, Leo, Evans, get down here and fight me. Seeing this scene, the crowd was even more confused. Who exactly was this guy? How big a grudge did he have with Nighthawk? Leo tilted his head slightly, waved his hand at Nighthawk, and said slowly, go wait in the corner. You already lost. What face do you have to be barking there? One short sentence silenced the entire arena. Nighthawk was so angry his face turned red. This familiar feeling, these punchable words, it was absolutely unmistakable. It was that bastard Leo Evans. From the conversation between the two, Griffin sensed something. Could it be that Nighthawk once lost to Leo? As soon as this thought appeared, Griffin's eyes changed slightly. How was that possible? How old was Leo? But Nighthawk's expression couldn't be faked. True or false, he'd know if he tried. Griffin took a deep breath, looking at Leo, and spoke slowly. Are you sure you want to fight? Leo raised an eyebrow, didn't speak, but extended a hand and hooked his finger at Griffin. He had a reason for stepping out. Since he decided to go to the frontier, naturally he had to gather whatever intel he could first. For example, the strength of those on the so-called frontier blacklist. It was a pity Nighthawk was too useless and couldn't even force Griffin to use his full strength. Helplessly, Leo had to step up and try it personally. After all, he was a man of action. Be careful. Facing Leo's provocation, Griffin's face was calm, deciding to probe with 50% strength first. Whoosh! Griffin rushed out violently, his fist carrying the sound of wind, swinging toward Leo's chest. Bang! Leo raised his hand slightly, and under everyone's astonished gazes, caught Griffin's punch with one hand. Don't treat me like Nighthawk, Leo said, enunciating each word. Use your full strength. Even killing moves are fine. Hearing this, Griffin's eyes changed instantly. Nighthawk's face turned green. From the moment Leo caught his punch, Griffin knew that George Evans' grandson was absolutely not an ordinary person. Without any hesitation, Griffin decisively abandoned his previous thoughts, used his full strength, and launched a fierce offensive against Leo. It was even more ferocious than when he fought Nighthawk. However, Leo's performance made everyone's jaws drop, because no matter how Griffin attacked, Leo's feet never moved. He stayed in the same spot the whole time. Griffin couldn't even knock Leo back. Am I dreaming? Who exactly is this pretty boy? A big shot who came out of the frontier. So young? I don't remember such a person on the blacklist. Holy crap, who is he? What's his background? Griffin is being completely crushed. Compared to these people, those who knew Leo's identity were even more shocked. Sarge Sue's eyes were as wide as copper bells, turning mechanically to look at Cloud, his eyes full of inquiry. You call this frail? This is what you said you could make cry with one punch? Why don't you go up and punch him now for me to see? Cloud didn't meet Sarge Sue's eyes because he was bewildered too. General Evans' grandson. Just what the hell is his background? Is this even human? Meanwhile, fighting with Leo, Griffin's internal shock was far greater than theirs. No one knew how much pressure he was facing right now. This kind of pressure he had never felt even at the frontier. Again, keep coming. Don't stop. Leo Evans stood his ground, calmly neutralizing every attack Major Griffin threw at him. Is this really the best you've got? Leo goaded. With this level of skill, you made it onto the frontier blacklist? Griffin's expression darkened instantly. He stepped back, his gaze locking onto Leo with deadly seriousness. You want to see my full power? That's right, Leo admitted openly. Fighting like this, you're holding back, aren't you? Use what you're best at. He knew Griffin was capable of far more. The sparring rules prohibited weapons, restricting them to hand-to-hand combat, which was a massive handicap for a specialist like Griffin. Sure enough, Griffin took a deep breath and slowly pulled a combat dagger from his tactical vest. Nighthawk watched the scene with a complex expression. His awe wasn't directed at Griffin, but at Leo. He felt he still had a chance to surpass Griffin, but Leo? The kid's a monster, Nighthawk muttered under his breath. He remembered fighting Leo in Viridian City only a month or two ago. Back then, they were evenly matched. But now, if they fought for real, Nighthawk felt he wouldn't last 5 moves. What was the difference between this growth speed and using cheat codes? Major Griffin is actually using a weapon. Who is that guy? He actually pushed the Major this far. This isn't just sparring anymore. If the brass finds out, Griffin's going to get disciplined. Everyone back up. Don't get caught in the crossfire. Lieutenant Sarge Sue roared, ordering the crowd to retreat. But a fight of this caliber wasn't something you saw every day. The crowd didn't retreat far. Leo Evans, just who the hell are you? Griffin stared into Leo's eyes and said slowly, someone your age shouldn't possess this kind of power. It's inconceivable. Don't tell me you're one of those so-called variants from NYC. Not a chance. Leo shook his head, his face solemn. I got to where I am today, step by step, relying entirely on my own hard work and countless trials. Host, please have some shame. Even the system couldn't listen to this anymore. I don't care if you want to show off, but saying that is just too shameless. Without this noble system, what would you be? At best, a kid with perfect SAT scores. But Griffin didn't know that. He took Leo's words at face value, his expression turning respectful. I didn't expect you to have experienced so much at such a young age. I underestimated you. Next, I won't hold back. One slip up, and your life will be in danger. Be careful. As the words fell, Griffin's expression shifted. A streak of silver flashed before Leo's eyes. A throwing knife? Leo reacted instantly, twisting his body slightly, dodging the blade by a hair's breadth. Faster than Ethan's knives. Leo's eyes grew serious. Griffin's attack was so fast he almost missed it. The moment Leo dodged, Griffin had already closed the distance, his dagger aiming straight for Leo's throat. Sarge Sue and Private Cloud dropped their jaws. That strike. Leo was dead meat. and Leo couldn't die. He was General Evans' grandson. However, in the next second, Griffin's dagger stopped abruptly, hovering just millimeters from Leo's neck. Sarge Sue and the others sighed in relief. Griffin was rational enough not to actually kill him. As expected, if Griffin goes all out, it's a guaranteed win. But that guy isn't weak either, pushing Griffin to this point. It was too fast. I didn't even see how Griffin moved. Terrifying strength. The crowd buzzed with discussion. Only Nighthawk frowned, remaining silent. Bunch of idiots. Nighthawk mocked quietly. Sure enough, a second later, Griffin spoke slowly, his tone laced with helplessness. I lost. The chatter stopped abruptly. Everyone froze. What? Griffin surrendered? Before they could react, Griffin slowly lowered his dagger and took a few steps back. Only then did the crowd see it. Leo was holding a small knife in a reverse grip, pressed right against Griffin's chest. One thrust, and it would have pierced Griffin's heart. Ow! When did he pull that knife? He was too fast. I didn't see it clearly. No wonder Griffin stopped. If he kept going, that knife would have hit his heart first. Wait, the knife in his hand. Isn't that the throwing knife Griffin threw earlier? The crowd immediately focused on the blade in Leo's hand. That's right. That is definitely Griffin's throwing knife. Sarge Sue swallowed hard. That meant Leo didn't just dodge the knife. In that split second, he snatched it from air, predicted Griffin's attack vector, and completed a counterkill. Is that even humanly possible? Normally, if someone told Sarge Sue this, he'd call them crazy. But now, the scene had played out right before his eyes. Leo Evans. In that moment, the image of Leo in Sarge Sue's heart was no longer just General Evans' grandson. He was a monster that absolutely could not be provoked. Good fight. Leo smiled lightly on the stage, handing the knife back to Griffin. I know that wasn't your full combat capability, but it's enough. Griffin took the knife and asked bluntly, You want to go to the frontier? Yes. When? Not sure. Depends on the situation. Leo paused, then asked, Is there anyone stronger than me at the frontier? Griffin pondered for a moment. I don't know the full extent of your strength, but if you really go to the frontier, watch out for two people. Ooh, Marcus from the U.S. and Shizuru Kiri from Japan, Griffin said gravely. Both of them have big reputations on the frontier, and their strength far exceeds mine. If I ran into either of them, I'd only have the option to run. Leo nodded, mentally noting the names. Fame was good. He couldn't be bothered with nobodies. Leo was going to the frontier to complete his ultimate mission. How could he become a global icon without causing a massive scene? How could he make a name for himself without taking down some big shots? Leo decided he would discuss a trip to the frontier with General Evans later. Just do it. As for Gareth Granger and the North Point Horde, none of his business. Inside the conference room, Commander Hayes scanned the room with a solemn expression. The content of today's meeting must not be leaked. Is that understood? Everyone nodded. Seeing this, Hayes continued. That's it then? General Evans, you stay. Everyone else is dismissed. General George Evans was confused. What's so important I have to stay behind? My grandson is waiting for me back at the office. The others didn't care. Hearing they were dismissed, they got up and left immediately, not wasting a second. Carol Evans also hurried back to watch over Leo, afraid he might cause trouble. In the blink of an eye, only Commander Hayes and General Evans remained. Old Hayes, what's so urgent? With no one else around, Evans dropped the formalities. Don't be impatient. Hayes smiled bitterly. You know I wouldn't waste your time unless it was something major. Evans nodded. He knew that. Since Hayes took command of the military region, he rarely held meetings. When he did, they were strictly business, no fluff. Spit it out. What is it? Evans asked helplessly. It's about your target today, Hayes frowned. Although we're cooperating with Sterling to sweep for spies. After seeing your action report, I feel that man, Gareth Granger, is too uncontrollable. If Sterling miscalculates and Gareth goes rogue, we'll have shot ourselves in the foot. Evans looked equally worried. I didn't expect Gareth to be that freakish either. Hundreds of heavily armed men, plus the crew from East Side Ridge, and he still managed to escape. Leaving a being like that in North Point is definitely a ticking time bomb. Hayes nodded, smiling bitterly. So we fell for it. We have no means to constrain Gareth. To ensure North Point stability, there's only one path. Continue cooperating with Sterling's operations until Gareth leaves North Point or dies. Sterling used his cooperation like bait. Once we bit, we couldn't let go. Evans sighed deeply. I'm only realizing it now, too. Sterling, that bastard. He remembered Sterling contacting them, claiming that cooperation would root out all spies hiding in the country. Facing such a temptation, Evans and Hayes were moved. They had restrained themselves, analyzing it for a day and night before agreeing. But they never expected Gareth to be this strong. Now they were passive. If Sterling wanted manpower for something, would they give it? If they did, who knew what Sterling would use them for? If they didn't, and Gareth went rogue because they didn't help catch spies, the blame would fall on them. Hayes finally realized Sterling had trapped them. Looking on the bright side, Sterling shouldn't be asking us for help constantly, right? Evans held onto a sliver of hope. Hayes grunted. Just before the meeting, Sterling called me directly. He said he was short-handed and asked me to send him people. He said he had a use for them, specifically mentioning it was to catch spies and deal with Gareth. Tell me, do I agree or not? Hayes stared straight at Evans, his tone frustrated. Evans' mouth twitched. That is indeed troublesome. We can't be led by the nose forever. But that's just a small matter. Hayes pinched the bridge of his nose, a headache building. Lending him people is one thing. What really gives me a headache is Bedlam. Bedlam? Evans asked, confused. What could happen there? Hayes shook his head. You know our military base is northwest of North Point, while Bedlam is directly north. We chose this location specifically to keep an eye on the scum in that town. Because of our presence, Bedlam has been relatively quiet. But recently, I've heard rumors that the people inside are planning something big. What? Evans' eyes widened. They have the guts. There must be a ringleader. Hayes sighed. The problem is, we don't know who it is. I'm worried it's the work of spies. I want to discuss keeping Griffin here a few extra days to investigate Bedlam. That was why Hayes kept Evans behind. Griffin was strong enough to be on the frontier blacklist. He didn't need to answer to Hayes. Even Hayes had to be polite to him. But Griffin listened to Evans. Have Griffin stay? Evans looked troubled. That might be difficult. The frontier is already pushing for his return, assigning him a new mission now. It's impossible. Then what do we do? Hayes looked distressed. Griffin is the best fit for this, and the only one who can suppress that mob in Bedlam. Send Nighthawk from Colonel Stone's unit, Evans suggested. That's the only option. Hayes nodded, though he still looked worried. Nighthawk was new to the district. Hayes didn't fully trust him yet. If only the district had a few more like Griffin, I'd have peace of mind. Give me a break. Getting one Griffin is already a blessing. You want more? Evans said impatiently. Anything else? If not, I'm leaving. Go, get out of here. Hayes waved him off like a fly. Evans stood up and walked out without a second thought. Just outside the door, he saw Colonel Stone standing nearby, his face looking terrible. Evans followed his gaze. In the distance, a group of soldiers was running in formation, shouting a slogan at the top of their lungs. I am trash. I am trash. I am trash. Hearing the chant, Evans sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking closely, the man leading the run was none other than Nighthawk. What the hell? Evans roughly guessed why Stone looked so bad. But why were they suddenly running laps and calling themselves trash? Stone couldn't have ordered that, right? North Point, inside a derelict shack. Gareth Granger sat on a wooden crate, eyes shut tight, gasping for air. If one looked closely, the wounds on his body were gradually knitting together, the bleeding stopping. All except the wound inflicted by Master Silas. Sterling. Gareth opened his eyes slowly, gritting his teeth. I will make you pay. And Dr. Kane, I remember that bowl of beef noodles. Once I get the North Point Horde and the Lunar Amber, no one will be able to stop me. Gareth closed his eyes again, waiting for his condition to fully recover. He had suffered a major loss this time, realizing that relying solely on himself in North Point, surrounded by enemies on all sides, was nearly impossible. He needed allies. This thought stuck in Gareth's mind, anchored there ever since Sterling told him about the existence of spies. While Gareth recovered, rumors fueled by Sterling and Commander Hayes had spread throughout North Point and were rippling outward. Hey, did you hear? There seems to be a huge treasure buried in North Point. You know about it too? Holy crap, everyone's talking about it. They say it's a hoard buried by the Qin Directorate and other major factions years ago. Its value is immeasurable. The Qin Directorate? That Qin Directorate? My God, whoever gets that hoard will become the next superpower. Tell me about it. The news has spread outside the city. Lots of people are rushing toward North Point. Damn, that's our North Point treasure. Are we going to let outsiders steal it? Exactly. We have the initiative. Before the outsiders get here, we need to secure the treasure. At the same time, in a hidden location within North Point, a secret meeting was underway. Only a few people were present, all wearing hoods and masks to conceal their identities. But they all knew that everyone sitting there represented a foreign nation. Gentlemen, you must have heard the rumors circulating outside, the American agent said slowly, scanning the room. If this is true, we cannot sit idly by. Regardless of who among us obtains this treasure, it will impact the entire war effort for our respective nations. Everyone nodded. No one could deny that. Therefore, I propose we join forces to seize this treasure, then split it equally, the American agent said, his tone grim. No matter what, we cannot let it fall into Chinese hands. At this, someone spoke up. Easy for you to say. This is Chinese territory. How do we compete with them? Besides, your American combat androids caught us all off guard. Now you want to talk about cooperation and equal shares? Doesn't seem quite right, does it? Everyone looked at the American agent. The appearance of combat androids had made every nation wary of each other. Although China was their greatest common enemy, the U.S. couldn't be underestimated. Working with a tiger required caution. The American agent seemed prepared for this. He took a deep breath. I have already reported to my superiors regarding this matter. To show our sincerity, in this operation to seize the treasure, the U.S. will contribute the most resources but take the smallest share of the hoard. Is that sincerity enough to convince you? The others were surprised. They hadn't expected the U.S. to make such a move. Maximum effort, minimum reward. You Americans really just can't stand seeing China prosper, someone mocked. You'd rather take a loss than let China get the treasure. The American agent shook his head. We have no choice. You know the situation at the frontier. Even with our combat androids, China still holds the upper hand. And don't forget, China has variants. At the mention of variants, someone asked skeptically, but I heard China ban variant research? That's just what they say on the surface, the American agent scoffed. I don't believe China would give up such a powerful weapon. They must be researching it secretly. Didn't you see the battle at East Side Ridge? That Gareth Granger is a variant. After the battle at East Side Ridge, they had quickly sent the intel back to their respective countries. It was the first time they had seen a variant in combat, and the shock was no less than that caused by the American combat androids. Although the Chinese government immediately claimed they had banned variant research on humanitarian grounds, no one believed it. Would China leave such a potent secret weapon unused? To this, China had responded dominantly. Believe it or not, if you have the guts, come hit us. Whoever flinches is a grandson. This enraged the nations, leading to another massive battle at the frontier. The result was mutual destruction, eventually forcing a ceasefire to recuperate. China was filled with madmen who never backed down. You want to fight? We'll fight to the bitter end. Ceasefire? Impossible. Either I kill you, or you kill me. Whoever calls for a ceasefire is a coward. This style of warfare gave the high command of every nation a headache. It was war, yes, but you didn't have to be suicidal about it. It was like playing Texas Hold'em. They would place a small bet, and China wouldn't even look at their cards before shouting all in. Do you call? Do you dare? What if you lose? So they had to fold and wait. In terms of momentum, they had already lost a step. Thinking of this, everyone present felt a headache coming on. One more thing, the American agent looked at the group and asked slowly, the situation in Bedlam. Which one of you is responsible? Why don't we talk openly? Bedlam? The hearts of the few present jumped. Are you saying the mysterious new leader in Bedlam is one of us? They looked at each other, trying to figure out who it was. Suddenly, the Japanese agent spoke up. Since the person doesn't want to reveal themselves, let's not force it. We are all on Chinese soil, connected by a common cause. Unrest in Bedlam is good for us. Everything is for the sake of targeting China, isn't it? The Japanese agent's words drew everyone's gaze. That's true enough, someone said with a hint of sarcasm. But you're so eager to change the subject. Could it be you? The Japanese agent snorted coldly. He stood up abruptly and removed his mask. Beneath, it was the very ordinary face of a middle-aged man, his eyes carrying a trace of melancholy. It is me. So what? The Japanese agent said. Things have come this far. I won't hide it anymore. My operation requires your help, so I don't fear exposing my identity. My name is Shiro Kiri. I have been undercover in China for 13 years. The cherry blossoms back home have bloomed 13 times. I want to go home. So, this mission must succeed at all costs. As long as I can use Bedlam to bring down the North Point Military District, I can go home. Hearing Shiro Kiri's words, the room fell silent. Home? What a laughable word. Which of them, serving as spies, didn't want to go home? But they knew that the moment they accepted the mission to infiltrate China, going home became nearly impossible. Shiro Kiri. Someone whispered the name, then looked up. What is your relationship to Chizuru Kiri? Shiro looked at the man and said softly, he is my brother, my biological brother. No wonder. The man realized, your brother must have achieved some great merit to earn you this chance to return, right? Shiro remained silent, tacitly confirming it. The American agent looked at Shiro and asked, what is your plan? How do you want us to help? Shiro didn't waste words. He took a deep breath. I have completely unified the gang in Bedlam. They follow my orders now. But that's not enough. The people in Bedlam can't shake the foundation of the military district. I need you all to act at the critical moment. Especially you. Shiro looked at the American agent. You are high-ranking military brass, correct? Otherwise, the U.S. couldn't have obtained the core data on the androids. Only 4 people in the district have access to that data. Commander Hayes and the 3 senior officers, General Evans, Colonel Stone, and Colonel Grant. I don't care which one you are. I need you to defect at the critical moment and stab them in the back. Everyone looked at the American agent in shock. They hadn't expected an American spy to infiltrate such a high position. Was it true? How'd he do it? The American agent didn't deny it immediately. After a long silence, he said in a low voice, "What's in it for me?" "The destruction of the military district. That is the benefit," Shiro said. "Once the North Point military district falls, and if you secure that treasure, you can all go home." This shook them. The merit would indeed be immense. If they pulled off both, they might actually get to go back. "But even if I help you, it's not enough," the American agent said suddenly. "We still don't have a 100% guarantee of taking down the district in one fell swoop. If we fail, my cover is blown, and years of effort go down the drain. Sorry, I won't take that risk." He rejected Shiro's proposal. As he said, he had spent too much blood and sweat to get where he was. Steady progress for years. If he threw it all away on a gamble, he'd have nowhere to cry. Besides, they weren't truly united. They were just gathered together because they all wanted to harm China. Without China as a common enemy, they would be rivals. There could be no true trust between them. Even if they acted together, they would harbor ulterior motives. Seeing Shiro wanted to speak, the American agent cut him off. "Let's stick to the previous plan. I'll make contact with Gareth first to see if we can reach a cooperation agreement. Finding the Horde is our joint mission, so I trust no one will play games on this matter. As for the rest, consider your own moves." When the American agent said this, he gave Shiro a meaningful look. The last sentence was for the others. He knew Shiro wouldn't give up and would definitely ask the others for help privately. But that was none of his business. His only goal was the Horde. Shiro stared silently at the American agent. He wanted to rush over, rip off the mask, see the true face, and use it as blackmail. But he couldn't. If he did, things would get complicated. Internal strife was absolutely forbidden during this sensitive period. So he endured it, stood up wordlessly, and left. Seeing this, the others stood up and left one by one. After everyone had gone, the American agent sat alone in his chair. He reached up and slowly removed his mask. Beneath, it was neither Commander Hayes nor any of the 3 officers. It was a handsome, youthful face. The man smiled gently, took a phone from his pocket, and dialed a number. "Hello, it's me. I've found out the identity of Bedlam's leader." After speaking, the man hung up and stretched. Undercover for so long. Finally time to close the net. A smile played on the man's lips. Playing this game of mission, impossible was just too fun. Sterling didn't lie to me. Tricking your own people is nowhere near as fun as tricking foreigners. An American agent? How the hell should I know who the American spy is? As long as that guy doesn't show up to expose me, I am the American agent. The man was supremely confident. When Sterling found him, he had worried about being exposed by the real American spy. But Sterling swore that the American spy would absolutely not reveal themselves and told him to go wild. Although he didn't know why, since Sterling said it, he believed it. To date, he had dug out almost half the spies in North Point. Whenever Sterling was willing, they could sweep these spies away. But Sterling didn't care about this small fry. He wanted to root out every spy in China in one go, including the deepest, most dangerous one, the American mole. North Point Military District, General Evans' office. General George Evans sat at his desk, staring in disbelief at the stack of files before him. Carol Evans and Major Griffin stood to the side, their expressions unreadable. Leo stood obediently in front of George, looking perfectly innocent. The files on the desk chronicled Leo's entire journey from Westlake City to the present. Although not complete, most of it was recorded. All of this. Leo did this. George looked at the files, dumbfounded. He couldn't believe the person responsible for all this was his well-behaved, adorable grandson. "I was busy before, so I didn't have time to report Leo's matters to you," Carol explained. "Plus, with you being in North Point, I figured if I told you, you wouldn't be able to sit still." "Hold on." George raised a hand to stop Carol, then turned to Griffin. "You said you just fought him?" "Yes," Griffin nodded. "And you lost?" "Yeah. Couldn't beat him." "Did you go all out?" "Yeah. Still couldn't beat him." Griffin answered George's questions with extreme calm. as if he wasn't the one who had just fought Leo. Hearing Griffin's answers, George sucked in a cold breath and looked at Leo. Leo, you. George didn't know what to say. When they first met, Leo told him he had been traveling around. But seeing these files, even George was silenced. This is traveling? Leo blinked and said, Grandpa, don't listen to Griffin's nonsense. He let me win. We were just playing around. Griffin rolled his eyes, remaining silent. He had pulled a knife, and Leo called that playing around? Did he have to wheel out an artillery cannon for it to count as real? Give me a minute. George pinched the bridge of his nose, unable to process it immediately. Carol understood. She had gone through the same thing. Leo yawned, looking around, feeling bored. By the way, Mom, I want to tell you something. Shoot. I want to go to the frontier for a bit. No. Hearing this, Carol went on high alert. What are you going there for? Do you know what kind of place that is? I know. I'm going to serve my country, Leo said righteously. As a son of this nation, draped in the flag, fighting for my country is my duty. Carol didn't believe a word. She knew her son. He definitely had ulterior motives. No, I'm arranging for you to go back to NYC tomorrow. You left Ava alone back there. Do you think that's appropriate? Carol scolded. You're a married man now, and you're still unreliable all day long. Didn't you leave Dad alone in NYC too? Leo retorted weakly. You learn how to talk back, huh? Then come back with me. There's a mess back there anyway. You go help your dad clean it up. Doesn't my mom have her own business? I'm busy every day. Where would I find the time to hang out with your dad? Leo deflected, turning to George. Grandpa, is she busy? Hearing this, George looked up at Carol and asked, Are you busy? I haven't assigned you many tasks, have I? For a moment, both grandfather and grandson looked at Carol, waiting for her answer. Carol didn't even blush. I'm not going back to NYC anyway. I haven't had a vacation in 6 months. I need a break. Is she joking? She knew exactly what the situation in NYC was. David Evans was on the verge of a breakdown. Why would she go there now? Husband and wife might be birds of a feather, but when disaster strikes, they fly separate ways. David wouldn't die anyway. What was wrong with taking a few days off to relax? So, how do I get to the frontier? Leo asked seriously. I really have business there. Serious business. He had to complete his mission. What serious business could you have? Carol looked skeptical. This stumped Leo. He couldn't exactly tell his mom he wanted to go to the frontier to make some noise, could he? At this point, George spoke up. Leo, listen to me. The frontier is dangerous. You have strength, yes, but it's not a place where strength alone ensures survival. Leo pondered for a moment, then spread his hands and shrugged. Fine. Since Grandpa says so, I won't go. As if Leo had anticipated Carol and George's reactions. He wasn't trying to be rebellious, but looking at the pitiful progress bar on his system mission, he knew he had to go to the frontier no matter what. Since they wouldn't let him, he'd just have to go secretly. By the way, Griffin, when do you go back to the frontier? George looked at Griffin. If you have time, I have a mission for you. What mission? Griffin asked. There's some activity in Bedlam. Commander Hayes wants you to investigate. Currently, within the district, you're the only one we trust with this. Griffin thought for a moment. I might not have time. The frontier is pushing hard for my return. I have to leave tomorrow. Forget it then. I'll send someone from Colonel Stone's unit. George acted indifferent. Leo raised an eyebrow, curious. What's Bedlam? Doesn't sound like a nice place. It's definitely not a nice place, Griffin explained. Bedlam is full of vicious criminals. It's basically their headquarters. Public security in North Point is that bad? Leo clicked his tongue. They openly set up a headquarters, and we don't just wipe them out? Griffin smiled and explained. On the contrary, Bedlam isn't far from the military base. With our deterrence, as long as the people inside don't act too wildly, we don't bother managing them. After all, with them gathered together, we can keep an eye on them. If places like Bedlam didn't exist, those villains would be hiding in every corner of North Point, making them much harder to manage. Leo realized the logic. So that was it. All right, that's it for today, George said. I have things to do later. Leo, go back to the hotel and rest. I need to talk to your mother alone. Carol sighed. George saying that meant he likely had a new mission for her. She wanted a vacation. Why was it so hard? Leo left with Griffin to go to the hotel. Carol stayed behind, looking helpless. Dad, what is it now? What else could it be? George grumbled. It's this cooperation with Sterling. He's asking us for manpower every day like a beggar. Hearing this, Carol felt a sense of foreboding. Sure enough, George quickly said, after our meeting, we decided you will lead a team to cooperate with Sterling's operation. What? Me? Carol refused. I said I wanted a vacation. I promise, after you finish this mission, I'll let you take a vacation. You said that before I went to NYC, too. I have no choice. George spread his hands. You have to understand, it's difficult for me, too. Not only Bedlam, but also Sterling's side, and even in NYC, David is struggling to hold on. I am severely shorthanded. George let out a deep sigh. Carol frowned. We aren't the only ones in the district. Colonel Grant and Colonel Stone don't have missions. At this, George's eyes sharpened. You're right. They don't have missions. Or rather, we dare not give them missions. George lowered his voice. You know about the American androids. Only Commander Hayes and us 3 senior officers have access to that information. I'm clean. That leaves the other 3. If Hayes was dirty, the district would be finished already. So it has to be either Grant or Stone. Until we know who it is, we must keep them in the district. No chances. Hearing George's serious tone, Carol became serious too. In that case, why do you and Commander Hayes trust each other? From his perspective, shouldn't we be suspects too? Don't worry about that. George waved his hand. Hayes and I are absolutely clean. So right now, these missions can only be executed by us. If it weren't absolutely necessary, Griffin should have taken the Bedlam mission. Carol's eyes flickered. She hadn't expected the risks to be this high. Suddenly, she had an idea. Dad, I have a thought. What if we let Leo handle the Bedlam mission? Nonsense. George scolded without thinking. You just told him to go back, and now you've changed your mind? Carol smiled sheepishly. The big picture is what matters. Besides, I told him not to go to the frontier. I didn't say he couldn't go to Bedlam. Thinking about it now, with Leo's personality, going to Bedlam fits perfectly. George was confused. Why do you say that? Carol grinned brilliantly. Because only a villain can grind down villains. This is the hotel arranged for you. Your friend, Adrian, is sharing the room with you. Griffin brought Leo to a hotel near the base and handed him a key card. I'm sharing with him? Leo raised an eyebrow. Can't we have separate rooms? I'm a married man, sharing a room with someone else. I'm afraid my wife might mind. Leo's coy attitude made Griffin's eye twitch. Not my department. Discuss it with your friend. I'm leaving. Griffin was resolute, walking away without looking back. Hey, Leo called out. If I go to the frontier, how do I find you? Griffin froze and turned back. You're still going? Yup, Leo said matter-of-factly. Don't worry about the details. Just tell me how to contact you. Hesitation appeared on Griffin's face, but he eventually recited a string of numbers. That's my cell. Call me if you can remember it. Got it. Leo made an okay sign. Just a phone number. He could remember that. He was a top-ranked scholar, after all. It was his least impressive identity. Leo went to the room number on the card. Knock, knock, knock. Soon, the door opened. Adrian looked at Leo and said flatly, Come in. Whoa, this big. Leo entered and realized why they were put together. A suite this size for one person was indeed luxurious. What are you doing? Leo watched Adrian, curious about what he did cooped up in the hotel. Adrian tapped away at his keyboard without looking up, taking control of all surveillance in North Point. It's an old habit. Can't feel safe without it. Leo nodded. Seeing Adrian like this reminded him of Zara Collins. I had a hacker on my team before. I don't think she was as good as you, though. Hearing this, Adrian's fingers paused. He asked, feigning indifference, Is that so? What's her name? Zara Collins. Pretty cute. Introduce you two later? Leo teased. Sure, Adrian said calmly. I'm at that age. It's time to find someone. This threw Leo off. Bro, I was just saying that. You took it seriously? Are all you hackers this efficient? Leo raised an eyebrow and changed the subject. So, you control North Point surveillance now. Adrian shook his head. The military district's defenses are tight. It'll take some time. You dare hack the military's cameras? Are military cameras special? Adrian countered. I'm hacking cameras. Who cares whose they are? Leo blinked, unable to refute that. Adrian made a lot of sense. Also, I've made contact with Sterling, Adrian continued. He's met up with Julian Reed. He told me to cooperate with your actions fully. Cooperate with me? Leo paused. What actions? I don't know. He said you definitely have ideas and to just roll with you. Whatever trouble you cause, he and Julian can clean up the mess. Hearing this, Leo felt confident. Solid. Since Sterling said so, he could go wild. Adrian, pull up the data on the frontier. And Bedlam. Adrian nodded. Okay, no problem. But don't forget about introducing me to that girl. Leo choked. You still remember that? Happy Lantern Festival, everyone. Half an hour later, Griffin returned to General Evans' room and found the atmosphere a bit off. Carol sat on the sofa, looking thoroughly displeased. George had ultimately decided to send her to NYC to support David Evans. As for Bedlam, Griffin, what do you think? Of my grandson? George suddenly asked. Griffin paused, stunned by the question. In what regard? Let's put it this way. Do you think the Bedlam mission suits him? You want Leo to take the Bedlam mission? Griffin frowned. Leaving aside his ability, his identity isn't appropriate. He's not military. What does that matter? George waved his hand dismissively. I just need to say a word to Commander Hayes, and Leo becomes military immediately. Griffin was speechless. Is that how you use authority? However, since George asked, Griffin pondered for a moment. In terms of ability, he's above me. I don't know about the rest since I don't know him well, but in my opinion, he should be more than capable of handling Bedlam. George fell into deep thought. He was a decisive man. He picked up the desk phone and called Hayes. Old Hayes, it's me. About the Bedlam mission, I have a suitable candidate. No, not Griffin. My grandson, Leo Evans. George explained the situation to Hayes. So we just need to give him an off-the-books military identity. On the other end, Hayes fell silent. After a long while, he spoke slowly. Evans, are you saying your grandson, who is still in college, beat Griffin? No. Evans shook his head. I just found out myself. My grandson has graduated. That's not the point. The point is, who exactly is your grandson? Don't worry about it. He's trustworthy. If there's a problem, I take responsibility. Fine, have it your way. Hayes sighed and hung up. It felt ridiculous. Then he shouted out the door, Adjutant Shun, come in. A man in uniform entered. Commander, instructions? Check someone for me. Leo Evans, General Evans' grandson. I want all his data. Adjutant Shun hesitated. Investigate General Evans' grandson? Isn't that improper? I told you do it, so do it. Cut the crap. Before Hayes could finish, a figure rushed in. It was Colonel Stone. Commander, I have an urgent report. Hayes looked at Stone, a headache forming. What now? Stone looked at Adjutant Shun, ignoring protocol. It's about General Evans' grandson, that Leo Evans. I suspect he's compromised. Hayes frowned. Leo again? Was he haunted today? Why was that name everywhere? Why do you say that? Hayes asked quietly. Just now, I heard from my men that Leo Evans defeated Griffin in front of everyone. Stone wore an expression of disbelief. Isn't such an absurd thing worthy of suspicion? How old is he? Where did he get that power? There must be a problem. Hayes was shocked. Leo really beat Griffin? In public. Just based on that, you suspect him? Isn't that enough? Stone frowned. Aside from being a variant, I can't think of any other possibility. I suspect General Evans is conducting secret variant research and turned his own grandson into one. Otherwise, there is no explanation for Leo's strength. Stone spoke with absolute certainty, slamming a massive black pot of blame onto George Evans. Hayes took a deep breath. Calm down. Before we have evidence, don't jump to conclusions. Leo's situation isn't unprecedented. Stone, have you forgotten that Sergeant Mad Dog Wu and Captain Invincible Zhao on the frontier also possessed extraordinary strength at Leo's age? You have to allow that some people in this world are simply born extraordinary. Stone shook his head decisively. It's different, Commander. Mad Dog Wu and Invincible Zhao carved their way out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood to achieve that at a young age. But Leo Evans is just an ordinary college student, a flower in a greenhouse. How could he? Hayes didn't know how to explain it to Stone. Indeed, hearing Stone put it that way, even he suspected Leo. But Leo was George's grandson, and without evidence, he wouldn't doubt anyone. Go back for now, Colonel Stone. Hayes waved his hand. If I find anything later, I will give you an explanation. But until then, I hope you won't do anything superfluous. Hayes' tone suddenly became grave. The military district cannot afford any more instability right now. Whether it's you or Colonel Grant, I hope you behave yourselves, understand? As for General Evans, I have my own plans. I don't need you to interfere. It was a warning. The hidden meaning was clear. I've tolerated you for a long time, Stone. Cause any more trouble, and I won't be polite. Stone caught the meaning. He froze, lips moving, but couldn't get a word out. Finally, he bowed slowly. Apologies, Commander Hayes. I was impulsive. It won't happen again. Hayes nodded lightly. Next time you come here, remember to knock. Stone shuddered, swallowed hard, and said, Yes, I'll remember. Go. Stone straightened up, turned slowly, and walked out. Leaving Hayes' office, he let out a long breath, a bead of sweat rolling down his forehead. The pressure Hayes exerted was immense. He looked back at the office door with lingering fear, panting softly. After so much time, he had almost forgotten. Commander Hayes was also a ruthless man who had crawled out of the piles of dead on the frontier. After hanging up with Hayes, General Evans looked smugly at Carol and Griffin. See? Identity's sorted. Carol pursed her lips and stood up reluctantly. Since it's settled, I'll go tell the kid so he doesn't run off. She took out her phone and called Leo. Beep, beep, beep. No answer. Carol froze, an ominous feeling rising. No way. Could that kid not sit still for even a minute? Dad, check with the hotel staff quickly. See if Leo is still there. George turned to Griffin. Griffin immediately called the hotel. After a few sentences, Griffin hung up with a weird expression, looking at the two of them. He mumbled. Hotel staff said Leo left with Adrian half an hour ago. Destination unknown. Impossible. George's voice rose. I arranged people to watch him. If they left, I couldn't have missed the report. I asked. They said they've been watching the monitors the whole time. No anomalies. Griffin was also confused. He had just left to report, and Leo vanished without a trace? Carol looked up suddenly at Griffin. Who did you say Leo left with? Adrian. Leo said he was a friend. It's him. No wonder. Carol rubbed her forehead, sighing. He's Sterling's hacker. The monitors you used to watch Leo? He probably tampered with them. Impossible. George shook his head. The hotel is within the military zone. How could military surveillance be compromised so easily? He has the ability, Carol said, certainly. We have very little data on him, but it's certain his hacking skills are world-class. Finding detailed info on Adrian is nearly impossible because he's wiped most of his data from the world. George and Griffin exchanged shocked glances. Griffin hadn't expected the guy he briefly met to have such means. That's not the point. The priority is finding them, Carol said quickly. In my experience, once Leo goes radio silent, you have to be prepared. George paused. Prepared for what? Carol took a deep breath. Prepare to clean up his mess. Due north of North Point. Twilight was falling. A taxi drove slowly along the road. Leo and Adrian sat in the back, each staring out a window. I say, Adrian sighed helplessly. Is running off like this really okay? What do you mean running? Leo objected. We walked out openly, didn't we? Openly? Then why did you make me hack the cameras? You hacked the cameras? What's that got to do with me? Adrian shut his mouth, continuing to watch the scenery, though worry filled his eyes. He was used to following Sterling, living a planned, disciplined life. Following Leo, he had basically thrown his brain away. Gentlemen, maybe you should switch cars. The taxi driver spoke up weakly. I won't charge you for the trip so far, okay? God knows how many heart attacks he'd had on this trip. He thought it was just a normal fare, but these two psychos in the back didn't hide anything. Hacking cameras. Military base. Causing trouble. The driver's hands were sweating. Most importantly, their destination made his scalp tingle. Bedlam. Driver, don't be scared. Leo turned his head. Just pretend you didn't hear what we said. Actually, it doesn't matter if you heard. We have clear consciences. We are very good people. The driver's mouth twitched. Good people? What good person goes to Bedlam? That place is full of vicious criminals, and they all claim to be good people. By the way, driver, do you know much about Bedlam? Leo asked casually. Is there really not a single good person inside? As far as I know. No, the driver whispered. Anyone who is a villain in North Point or elsewhere basically gathers in Bedlam. As long as they stay inside and don't cause trouble, no one bothers them. Of course, if someone goes there for revenge, no one interferes either. So, it's a sanctuary for some. No way, Leo frowned. These people do so much evil, and no one governs them? It's not that they don't want to. They don't have time, the driver sighed. North Point isn't far from the frontier. The pressure there is immense, so they don't bother sparing men to manage these people. They'll probably wipe them out later when they have time. So the people inside are anxious too, afraid the military will purge them one day. Chatting helped the driver relax. He asked, by the way, why are you two going to a place like that? Us. Leo smiled lightly. We're going to purge them. Huh? You're with the military? My parents are, Leo whispered. Identity doesn't matter. What you do matters. Hearing this, the driver's body shook. Good. Well said. Identity doesn't matter. Actions do. Just for that line, the fare is on me. The driver declared heroically, then worriedly added, but is it enough with just the two of you? Leo just smiled and said nothing. The driver stared at the rearview mirror for a moment, then realized, right? You must be scouting. You'll bring the main force later to wipe them out, right? Don't worry. I absolutely won't tell anyone. My lips are sealed. The driver beamed, feeling like part of a crusade against evil. Adrian glanced at him indifferently, saying nothing, continuing to look out the window. Right now, he was just a tool. He had no brain. Hey, my short drama is out. It's called Asking You to Confess. You go for the family heiress. Ava looks pretty good. Near Bedlam. The taxi driver slammed on the brakes, stopping by the roadside. Sorry, brothers, I can only go this far. The driver turned back, looking apologetic. Any further is Bedlam territory. I'm a bit scared. Leo's mouth twitched slightly. Just now you were full of justice, ready to judge them. Now you won't even drive in. Forget it. This is fine. Just a short walk. Leo took out his phone to pay. No, no, no. The driver quickly covered the QR code. I said no charge. What are you doing? Leo raised an eyebrow. We are good people. How can we take a free ride? You have to pay what you owe. Besides, it was a long trip. Driving a taxi isn't easy. Leo pried the driver's hand away, scanned the code, paid, and got out with Adrian. The driver looked at Leo with emotion. Truly a great, honest man. Gentlemen, I wish you a safe return. The driver turned the car around and left. Leo put his hands in his pockets and exchanged a glance with Adrian. Adrian, wearing his usual baseball cap and carrying a black backpack, looked resigned. Don't look at me like that. Just say what you want. Leo laughed mischievously. Adrian, check if there are any ready-made explosives in Bedlam. The bigger the boom, the better. Let's just blow these bastards up. Adrian took a deep breath. Didn't you say we were just looking around? Yeah, Leo said matter-of-factly. Looking around, blowing stuff up along the way. Same thing. Not the same thing at all. Adrian complained internally, but remembering Sterling's orders to cooperate, he held back. But Adrian couldn't help wondering, can they really clean up this mess if we keep going like this? Soon, Adrian pulled out his laptop from his backpack and brought up the data he found on Bedlam. According to what I found, Bedlam does have an armory deep in the town. I don't know exactly what's inside, but there should be some explosives. What's the plan? Leo nodded. An armory works. Leave the rest to me. You wait here. Adrian paused. I wait here. Yeah, you gonna come in with me? Do you know how to fight? Leo countered. No. Then what was the point of bringing me out? With our relationship, of course I have to bring you along when I go out to play. You want me to be your partner? Partner? That sounds too nice. It's called an accomplice. Leo grinned wickedly. Anyway, you came out with me, and you're at the scene of the crime. That makes us grasshoppers on the same rope. Adrian fell silent. He hadn't expected Leo to still suspect him of having ulterior motives, but made sense. Being Sterling's man, Leo wouldn't use him without some guts. Fine. I'll wait right here obediently, okay? Mr. Accomplice. Adrian found a random bench, sat down, crossed his legs, and took out his phone to order takeout. He hadn't eaten since arriving in North Point. Might as well eat while waiting. He was a hacker. Efficiency was key. Seeing Adrian ordering food, Leo said casually, "Order me an Inferno burrito. I'll be back soon." Adrian waved a hand in acknowledgement. Leo put his hands in his pockets and strode forward with a swagger. The road was deserted, lined with abandoned shops. No convenience stores? How do they survive? Leo muttered. Soon, he saw a sign, Bedlam, 500 meters ahead. Leo glanced at it and kept walking. He soon saw a cart by the road with several slabs of pork on it. Beside the cart, a shirtless man in an apron, holding a butcher knife, stared intently at Leo. Lost kid. The butcher smiled grimly. Do you know where this is? Leo blinked. Isn't this Bedlam? The butcher paused, then laughed. Oh, a newcomer? What are you hiding from? He assumed Leo was like them, a criminal seeking refuge. What am I hiding from? Leo rubbed his chin, thinking, does killing count? Killing? You. The butcher laughed louder. Come on, tell me, who could a twig like you kill? I've killed quite a few. Didn't ask for most of their names. Leo scratched his head. Come to think of it, he had probably killed hundreds, maybe thousands by now. His explosions usually wiped out crowds. Hiss. Leo suddenly realized the problem. Looking at it that way, do I look more like the villain? Before Leo could think more, the butcher laughed harder. Haha, kid, you can brag. Go home and drink milk. This isn't a place for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Stay any longer, and you might lose your life. The butcher warned kindly. Indeed, Bedlam wasn't for everyone. You say you're a villain? Do you know what a villain is? Without a few lives on your hands, you'd be embarrassed to call yourself one here. Small-time crooks often tried to hide in Bedlam, only to find they were minnows in a shark tank. Hearing the butcher's advice, Leo smiled slightly. Thanks for the tip. Hope you sell lots of pork. Leo continued walking. The butcher froze. He didn't expect the pretty boy to keep going. Won't listen to advice. Wait till he meets the gatekeepers. It'll be too late for regret. The butcher muttered, resuming sharpening his knife. Soon, Leo arrived at the town gate. Looking up, he saw 4 crooked words painted high above Bedlam. Kid, what do you want? A voice rang out. Leo turned to see 2 vicious-looking men walking toward him. Fresh face? This isn't a place for ordinary people. Leo looked at them and slowly revealed a brilliant smile. Please inform your boss. Just say, your daddy Leo is here to set off some firecrackers. Daddy Leo? Firecrackers. At the gate of Bedlam, the two guards' expressions turned nasty upon hearing Leo's words. Kid, is there something wrong with your brain? One of them laughed loudly. You alone dare to come looking for trouble. As he spoke, he pulled out a pistol, aimed it at Leo's head and mocked. Pretty boy hasn't even grown hair down there yet. Ever seen a real gun? Leo looked at the dark muzzle with a helpless expression. In the next second, he moved. In the blink of an eye, he snatched the gun, aimed it at the other guard, and pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet hit right between the eyebrows. The man died with his eyes open, a look of disbelief on his face. Why me? He mocked you. He pointed the gun at you. Why shoot me? He couldn't speak those words before collapsing dead. Leo turned the gun to the stunned face of the first guard. Laugh. Why aren't you laughing now? Leo tapped the man with the gun barrel, speaking clearly. I told you. I'm here to collect you. The man reacted, screaming at the top of his lungs. Help! Bang! Leo waited specifically for him to finish yelling before firing the shot that ended his life. Then, holding the gun in his right hand, he kicked open the gates of Bedlam. Taking a deep breath, Leo shouted, Everyone in Bedlam, listen up. If you know what's good for you, line up and stand straight. Repent and surrender one by one. If you don't, wash your necks and wait. Daddy Leo is coming personally to give you a physical ascension. You are all surrounded by me. The arrogant, wild words instantly spread through most of Bedlam. Under the dark night sky, many people looked at the figure standing at the gate, bewildered. Where did this psycho come from? One person surrounding Bedlam? How does he even say that with a straight face? Who is this guy? Do we take in just anyone now? Damn, that help sounded like the gatekeepers. Did the kid kill them? If they're dead, replace them. What's the big deal? True. So how do we handle this kid? Take him down first, then hand him to Buck. Ask Buck what to do. Keep it quiet. The boss said it's not time for us to reveal ourselves yet. Fine, let's do that. While they discussed, a crowd of vicious men approached, surrounding Leo. Although Leo held a gun and had blood on his clothes, these people seemed accustomed to it. There was no fear in their eyes. Death was a daily occurrence for them. Are you lining up to surrender or waiting to be ascended? Leo scanned the surrounding mob, then sighed. Forget it. Looking at your faces, each one uglier than the last. Repentance is redundant. GGG. Repent. A voice rang out. We've done evil for so many years, we don't know how to spell the word. Brothers, get him. Take down this pretty boy. Everyone rushed forward at once. 2 minutes later, everyone was lying on the ground. Leo stood in place, rotating his wrists, looking at them with a sigh. Why bother? One man lying on the ground raised a trembling hand toward Leo. I surrender. I repent. Hearing this, Leo laughed. Didn't you say you didn't know how to spell repent? The man smiled awkwardly. Well, didn't you just teach me, big brother? He realized now. This wasn't a pretty boy. This was a giant crocodile. Dozens of men, cleaned up in 2 minutes flat. If he didn't submit now, he'd really be reporting to the king of hell. A wise man submits to circumstances. Leo looked at the man, finding him interesting. What's your name? What did you do? Be big brother. My name is Harvey Gundam. I only came to hide in Bedlam because enemies were chasing me. Gundam. Leo's mouth twitched. You haven't committed crimes? Really no. Harvey shook his head like a rattle drum. At most, I stole money from a desk made in elementary school. Aside from that, I'm a very good person. Bullshit, Leo cursed. How can there be good people in Bedlam? If you were really good, how could you survive here? Hearing this, Harvey looked awkwardly at the people lying around him. He gritted his teeth. Big brother, I'll be honest with you. The reason I can stay here is because Buck vouched for me. Buck? Yeah, Buck is the second in command here. What's his full name? Liu Yangxiu. So, you're just selling out your Buck? Leo asked playfully. He showed you great kindness, and you betray him like that? Harvey's face turned awkward, but quickly, he put on a look of adoration. Because one look at you, big brother, tells me you aren't simple. Such decisive killing. You must be a legendary devil figure. Someone of your level coming to Bedlam will surely claim a seat of power easily. I am Buck's man, so I believe Buck will also appreciate a figure like you. You two will get along great. I can take you to see Buck. He's the local snake here. If you, the crossing dragon, cooperate with him, wouldn't that be even better? Once you establish yourself in Bedlam, aren't we all family? Harvey spoke with excitement. In his view, with Leo's methods, how could he be a good person? Not a good person, yet coming to Bedlam? Definitely a crossing dragon. If he hugged this dragon's thigh, plus Buck's protection, Wouldn't he, Harvey Gundam, walk sideways in Bedlam? Listening to Harvey, Leo's eye twitched. Him? Great evil? Him? Not a good person. You kid got a death wish. Leo looked at Harvey through gritted teeth. Where exactly do I look like a villain? Harvey seemed scared. He shrank his neck and whispered weakly. Be big, brother. Maybe look in a mirror? With your current tone, your look. Who wouldn't be scared? You make the neighbor's kid cry. Look at the gun in your hand and the blood on your clothes. And you still want to pretend to be a good person?